morning, everyone, and welcome to the opening drive on 101 ESPN in St. Louis, where it's 7 o'clock. Your time check brought to you by Clarkson Jewelers, an officially licensed Rolex jeweler. Brooke Grimsley, Danny Mac, Matthew Rocc, Randy Carricker. Great to have you with us on a happy Taco Tuesday morning. Good morning, everybody. How we doing?
Good morning. I'm doing great.
Looking forward to tacos, maybe a few nachos later in the day?
Oh, I love nachos.
Nachos are
I'm a big
best.
nachos person, but I think I'll always go tacos first. Every time you bring up Taco Tuesday, immediately I start craving tacos for the rest of the day.
Even 7 in the morning. I like that. Good.
Breakfast tacos are fantastic.
You were always giving back to the community, and you had your annual golf tournament yesterday. How did things go?
Everything went very well. Thank you, Daniel. To benefit Every Child's Hope, we were out at Old Hickory. Thanks to our friends at Plaza Motors, our primary sponsor. Also, my great friends at Dr. Pepper Keurig. They provided the core water and regular Dr. Pepper and 7-Up and RC. But, of course, a lot of Diet Dr. Pepper, too.
Of course.
Thanks to them. Thanks to our friends at Grey Eagle Distributors for providing the Anheuser-Busch products. That was fantastic. Our friends right downstairs at Potbelly provided the lunch sandwiches. It was great.
Nice.
Had a great time. Thanks to all the golfers who came out, and we were able to raise some funds for Every Child's Hope over near the Rock Road and 170. And those kids are put in really bad circumstances, and many of them are in just really bad straits, but come out in great shape. So congratulations to what ECH does, too.
Nearly $100K raised.
Yeah.
Wow.
Thanks to Randy K.
Yeah, well, thank you.
I love it.
Thank you, Daniel. Appreciate that. We've got quite a show coming your way. We'll talk a lot of Cardinal baseball and what they should do. The NFL now in full swing. Boy, wasn't that fun last night. If you stayed around to the very end of the Atlanta Falcons. Kirk Cousins, you like that?
You like that? Yeah. Talk about shocking there. I don't know.
Like
There's so many different takeaways from that. One, at the beginning, not a great game, honestly. I was like, this is not great to watch whatsoever. Can we just go ahead and get this part out of the way before we get to the big part of the story? Take the field goal when you have the chance early on. You can't just leave points out there on the field. That is absolutely ridiculous. So mistake number one there. And then, of course, last night, 3rd and 3. In that situation, you have the ball. You've been running the ball effectively. And what do you do there? Well, Nick Sirianni said, we're going to pass it.
They're trying to help out taking shots with Ricky. I get it. But the game was over, okay, Nick? So let's just run it. Let's worry about the Eagles and not Randy in that situation, okay? Because it was over for Randy. But the Eagles still had an opportunity. You hand the ball to Saquon Barkley. Maybe you get a first down, maybe you don't. But even if you don't, you still run 40 seconds off the clock, and you kick a field goal, and at the end, the Falcons have a minute rather than a minute 43 to go down the field with no timeouts and try to score.
The clock is your friend.
It is.
The Atlanta D was tired, out of timeouts, and they throw the ball. I was shocked. If they make it, though, Nick Sirianni has looked like a riverboat gambler, going to Saquon, who should have made the catch, doesn't make the catch, and all of a sudden, they got time on the clock.
Yeah, and it was a tough catch, but you're right. He should have made the catch.
Got to make that catch.
Yeah, and here's Nick Sirianni on the decision to pass the ball there at 3rd and 3.
In that scenario, I was thinking they might not have any timeouts there, but obviously they did with the incomplete pass. That would have came down to maybe a minute, and so we wanted to go up 6 points, and it didn't work. So, the decision to pass it there, again, like I said, where they were junking it up inside, with it being 4th and 3 to go for it, I thought, with them not having any timeouts, I wanted them to be down a touchdown and see if they could drive the field, and they did.
I cannot believe it. So if you're slicing up the blame pie today with the Eagles and what happened last night, of course, Saquon Barkley, I know that people are going to talk about it all day long. He should be able to catch it there. I think like 99 times out of 100, he'd be able to catch that pass. But at the same time, you're putting the biggest slice, if not half the pie, the blame pie, a slice in front of Nick Sirianni there, aren't you?
The buck stops with him. He's the one that allows that play call. He might not make the play call. Kellen Moore might make the play call, but Sirianni's got a headset on. He's got to say, no, we're running the ball here. We're going to run the clock. That's game management. And that was very poor game management on the part, at the end of the day, of Nick Sirianni. You don't blame Saquon Barkley or Jalen Hurts, unless Hurts changed the play, which they aren't going to say if he did or not. But you just logically don't take the chance of stopping the clock there, do you?
No. And ultimately, it falls on the head coach. You think about what a head coach does in games. Number one is clock management and figuring out, okay, do we go on it on 4th and 3 or 4th and 4? Do we go 4th and 5? And then the other part is clock management. That is in college, that's pro. It winds up being on the head coach. And that's the two most important, in my mind, the two most important things that they have to do.
Yeah, and they've got problems there. And you can't let the defense off the hook either, because that's a Vic Fangio defense, and there were two things. Number one, they couldn't get after Kirk Cousins. The time that he had in that final drive was amazing. And then, with all the time he had, receivers were open. Drake London, that move that he made on Slay for the game-winning touchdown, man, it was unbelievable. Who do you cover? If Atlanta's coming down the field, not that they have a prolific passing game, but isn't Drake London the first guy you look at?
I think that's pretty easy. I know. They were just basically watching Kirk Cousins execute a 70-yard touchdown drive. They were just watching. And maybe it was the anger following what just happened in that situation before, but you have to be able to put that behind you in that moment. And they were just watching there. And the Eagles, I don't know what's going on with them. But now, of course, the big topic of discussion is, what do you do with Nick Sirianni? Do you already look at maybe making some changes with the Eagles?
I think it's way too early. The Eagles, when they won the Super Bowl, they started. They're 1-1 now. It's I don't know if you make a change after 2 games. And really, aside from Don Coryell taking over the Chargers back in 1978, when has an in-season coaching change worked in the NFL?
It didn't seem like it does. And the other part of the game, like the big story for me, is that the Eagles couldn't stop the run. Bijan Robinson had 97 yards and 14 carries. The Eagles just could not stop the run. They have allowed 7 yards a carry, and that's last in the National Football League. That's another part of what's going on with their defense and ultimately what they're doing on the field. They cannot stop the run.
And Fletcher Cox isn't walking through that door.
No.
No.
Bryce Huff of the Eagles, 0s in the box score.
That's terrible. That was their big free agent signing during the offseason.
He's got 0 in the box score last night.
So the Falcons win it 22-21. Here in St. Louis, a bittersweet night for the Cardinals. Let's start with the sweep. They win it 4-0 over the Pirates. Andre Pallante with 7 scoreless innings. He walks 1, strikes out 9, and allows 4 hits. And Pallante, I know that he hadn't had a great September up to that point last night, but we talked about it yesterday. I believe he has cemented his case for a spot in the rotation in 2025.
Yeah, you can go ahead and put it in pin when you're talking about his name in the starting rotation for next year. What he was able to do last night, outdueling Paul Skenes, I mean, that is huge with what he was able to do. And Andre Pallante has just been so impressive this season and a bright spot for sure.
Key at bat in the game, at least in my mind, was 3-0 on Arenado and let him go. Let him. I mean, Paul Skenes is dominating the game. He was perfect through 4, and a 3-0 pitch might be the best pitch that you get in the at bat to by Paul Skenes to Arenado. You let him go, and a base hit, scores a run. The Cardinals, again, not great with runners in scoring position, 3 for 10. The Paul Skenes, I went back and did some numbers, and he's had 21 big league starts. He's given up 29 earned runs. That's it, with 84 strikeouts. And the Cardinals, in the 3 losses, have won 2 of the 3 against Skenes. So they have his number a little bit, and that's what's so weird about baseball. If you looked at that and you're saying, okay, Andre Pallante against Paul Skenes, I got to go with the Pirates here in this spot. But that's what makes baseball great. You never know what's going to happen. 3-0 pitch to Arenado, base hit, run scores. They finally get to him. They got a little momentum, and I thought that was the difference in the game.
Yeah, Ollie giving Nolan the green light there.
And Ollie talked about the ascent of Andre Pallante this year.
Overall, man, he just attacked the zone. It was a lot of fun to watch. You talk about growth, and you look at Pallante last year, you look at where he's at today, and he's done a really nice job of every outing just targeting something about his game that he can improve on and just taking a small step forward. We talk about the running game or first pitch strikes or the sinker and landing that, but this is you talk about process and seeing a ton of improvement and development in one of our starters, and Pallante is the poster child for it. He's done an incredible job of just being a better version of himself every time out. He's a worker. He's a process-driven guy. And a lot of credit to, a lot of people in that pitching department, but also the mental side of this to get him where he's at. But this guy's done an incredible job. That game against Skenes right there is hella fun to watch.
Yeah, great job by Pallante. And despite the fact that a lot of guys are on a roller coaster with the Cardinals on that starting mound, he has improved a lot from day one to near the end of the season. It'd be nice if you could have more guys do that. If Liberatore would have done that as a starter, if Thompson would have done that as a starter, if more people would have been given the opportunity to do that as a starter. But it sounds like he's taken it upon himself to get better.
And we talk about guys that have not grown at the major league level and struggled this year, mostly position players. You got to give Pallante credit for being able to make the adjustment to get right-handed batters out. So Ali mentioned the sinker, a key pitch for him. He had those reverse splits going into the season. Now he's starting to get right-handers out, and that is the key with him. Can he get both sides of the plate with that sinker? And he was able to do that last night.
It was a huge surprise to me this season that Andre Pallante was even getting a shot at being a starter. And that was just the situation and how it unfolded. At first, I was like, I don't know how this is going to go, but now it's worked out so well for the Cardinals and for the starting rotation that it's been a great surprise.
And when he went down, I thought, what are they doing here? Stretching him out as a starter doesn't make a lot of sense. But now, as you mentioned, you write him in pen. He's part of your rotation for sure next year.
So that's the sweet. The bitter is the fact that even though the Cardinals won, they were eliminated from contention for the division title.
Feels like that was a long time coming, if I'm being honest.
But now it's official.
It's official.
Yeah, Milwaukee wins. The Cardinals can max out at 87 victories. And if the Brewers lose every game, they would finish with 87 victories. And, of course, Milwaukee holds the season tiebreaker over the Redbirds. So now the Cardinals' only opportunity for the playoffs is a wild card spot.
Yeah, I think a lot of that is out of reach at this point.
So I'm just saying it.
You just wanted to say it. You have to say it.
Yeah, sunshine lollipops.
Hey,
mathematically alive.
Yeah.
You got to look at it that way, right?
I will not say stranger things have happened, though, because they haven't.
Stranger things have not happened. It ain't happening. It ain't happening.
And one other football note for you. Bryce Young benched by the Carolina Panthers. Andy Dalton is going to take over under center. All of a sudden, Andy Dalton becomes a great immaculate grid guy. He's been around, you know. You think about Bryce Young and the way that he's been utilized in a horrible organization. I wonder if they have wasted him. Now, Carolina, we thought that when they got Mayfield and Sam Darnold, we thought, okay, that year with them is going to kill them, especially because Mayfield had come from a horrible organization at the time in Cleveland. Darnold had come from a horrible organization at the time, and still in the Jets. But you hope that Bryce Young can get away from there sooner rather than later, get into a situation where he can sit for a year like Darnold did and maybe get another opportunity with a better organization.
At this point, David Tepper, the way that he just tampers with his own organization, it's very clear that he micromanages, and it does not help them whatsoever. So I feel bad for any young quarterback that has to go and work in that organization and try to succeed, because it feels like they just set them up for failure. I'm shocked that this soon you're already giving up on Bryce Young. I understand that he doesn't look great. I do understand that. But at the same time, you didn't set him up for success. Last year, he was sacked 62 times, and you could tell that he's really just struggled to gain confidence, and you haven't put him in the right situation to help build him as a young quarterback.
He's got to get rid of the ball, though.
Yeah.
I mean, he holds on to it forever, and then you start saying, well, is he just a product of Alabama? By the way,
he's never been coached in the NFL either. Now he's on his second head coach. He's on his second offensive coordinator, and hasn't been given the opportunity just to sit and learn.
Here's the trade now. Carolina's 2025 second-round pick still going to Chicago is the final piece of the Young trade, which went like this. The Bears received DJ Moore. They got a 23 first-round pick that turned into an offensive tackle. 23 second-round pick turned into a cornerback, Tyreek Stevenson, and a 2024 first-round pick. Ouch. That's how you run a bad organization.
And the first-round pick was Caleb Williams.
Yeah. There you go.
The first pick in the draft. Amazing. So there you have it. We're off and running here on 101 ESPN. Coming up, 4 downs from NFL Week 1 on the opening drive with Brooke, Dan, Randy, 101 ESPN. Time for 4 downs from NFL Week 2. First down. Rocc.
All right, we were talking about it in the last segment, but we have to go back to the Panthers and their entire situation. If you missed it, they are benching their former #1 overall pick in Bryce Young after their terrible start. If you have had to watch a Panthers game, you know how bad it has been. And Andy Dalton will take over. As you mentioned, Randy, great immaculate grid guy for you if you need somebody.
Bengals, Bears, Saints, Cowboys, Panthers, been around.
And here's the thing is that I wasn't expecting this to happen so early. This is why this is so shocking to me. But I will say, Dan, you pointed this out. He has to get rid of the ball a lot quicker than he does. The film doesn't lie. He's struggling to see the field, and his footwork is just not where it needs to be. There are wide open plays, but I go back to the confidence issue here. He was sacked 62 times last season. You can really tell that his confidence is not there as a player. He wasn't able to fully develop in the way that a young quarterback should when they're being introduced in the NFL. And I believe that that's on David Tepper, and it's on the Panthers organization, that they did not set him up to succeed. This was Dave Canales yesterday when talking about if David Tepper had any role in the decision to bench Bryce Young.
I want to keep that private. What I would like to say, though, is this is something after I watched the film, I looked at it, had a thought, started working on talking to the guys that we make decisions with. Certainly a lot of parties involved there. And ultimately this comes on me, and my #1 responsibility is to help the Panthers win. And so this move, I believe, puts us in the best chance to do that this week.
Now, this was Dave Canales literally the day before when asked about if they were going to do anything with Bryce Young or change who their quarterback would be.
Bryce is our quarterback. I'd love to see this thing just continue to take the next steps offensively right now.
Will he start next week?
Bryce is our quarterback. We're going to just continue to shore up and fix the things we need to fundamentally from a scheme standpoint. All those things. These are all valuable reps. These are all valuable games. We'll learn a lot from this game, and hopefully we'll take another step this week.
So what changed? You can't convince me that David Tepper did not have a role in tampering with this decision.
Oh, it was totally a meeting with the owner who said, yeah, you're playing Dalton at quarterback.
Their owner is insane.
He is, yeah.
That's the best way to put it, dude.
You say, what happened? I guess the tape didn't lie. It didn't look good whatsoever. So make the change, and you wonder about his future with when we're talking about Bryce Young. We're supposed to do first down, right?
Well, this will be second down.
Oh, this is second down.
There we go.
Thank you, Matthew. All the injuries in the NFL already with big-time players. What is this going to look like at the end of the season? Puka is on the IR. You got Christian McCaffrey, IR. Pacheco, fractured leg. Tua, concussion. Jefferson, a knee. Kupp, an ankle. Jordan Love, a knee. Addison, an ankle. You've got Walker week to week. Higgins, a hamstring. Ferguson, a knee. Keenan Allen, a heel. Ingram, a hamstring. A.J. Brown out last night for the Eagles. It's one of the storylines, I think, in the NFL. Top players that just aren't playing because they are injured. And again, what will this look like week 3, 4, 5, and then so on and so forth, week 10. And as you continue, just some of the top players that are not on the field, and it's had an adverse effect for their teams.
Huge part of winning is being healthy, and a huge part of losing is having a lot of injured players. And if you look now at the teams that are succeeding, and there's a lot of 2-0 teams, but they're the ones that have generally been able to stay healthy. And Dan, you mentioned a lot of names there. At some point, we're going to be losing a bunch of quarterbacks besides Tua also, and Love.
They used over 50 last year.
Yeah.
50 QBs last year in the National Football League. So at some point, they're going down too.
The Pacheco injury, I think, is huge for the Chiefs. Now, you always say that. I feel like there's always an injury with the Chiefs or something, and they still find a way to be the Chiefs and find a way to win. But still, they really don't have much depth when you talk about the running back position. There's not many options there. Now, there is a report that Kareem Hunt will take a visit today over to the Chiefs, so maybe that's a possibility for them.
The Chiefs, it's interesting. Baltimore is 0-2. Cincinnati now 0-2. So KC has the tiebreaker over both those teams, considering where they go, in the future here. The Chiefs need to clean up their offensive line too. Flagged 33 times for offensive holding. That's most in the National Football League.
So that's a problem.
Yeah, it's a big time problem.
Yeah, so they got to get that going.
Third down.
Guys, I want to go back to old-timey days. I want to go back to 2010 when the San Francisco 49ers...
Old-timey days.
The San Francisco 49ers allowed the 16th most points, middle of the pack in the NFL. We think of Jim Harbaugh as an offensive guy. Jim Harbaugh arrives on the scene in San Francisco, and in his first year, they went from 16th to 2nd in points scored, second in points scored in his second year, third in points scored in his third year in San Francisco. Last year, the San Diego Chargers were 24th in the league in points allowed. Jim Harbaugh arrives on the scene, and the Los Angeles Chargers have allowed the fewest points in the NFL. They've allowed 13 points over their 2 games. We think of him, and rightfully so, as a physical, hard-pounding coach that's going to run the ball and stop the run. Well, J.K. Dobbins has experienced a renaissance. He's got over 100 yards in each of his first 2 games, and their defense has allowed the fewest points in the league, and they go to practice every day with an enthusiasm unknown to mankind. And so...
who has it better than we do?
Nobody.
There you go.
Jim Harbaugh can just coach, folks, and... if they make the playoffs, I will not be at all surprised. As a matter of fact, I would kind of be surprised now with the way he's got things turned so quickly, like he always does. I'd be surprised if they didn't make the playoffs.
Yeah, I would be very surprised if they didn't. Would you say that it would almost be kind of an upset in a lot of ways because of what he's able to do and change the identity of a team and a group? I feel like it would be shocking if they missed it.
I just love the fact that they run the football. It's like old school football. They pound the football, and it makes such a difference. And you're right, Jim Harbaugh is amazing. What he did in Michigan, and he was on the ropes in Michigan there for a while and turned that thing around and wins a national championship and now goes to I mess it up all the time. San Diego Chargers, L.A. Chargers, and is turning that around too.
It still is weird to say that, isn't it?
It is. He can flat out coach.
And here's the thing. This day and age in the NFL, who plays physical football? Nobody.
And that's my point.
There's no preparation. There's no way to prepare unless you start in training camp for dealing with a physical football team. And Joe Ortiz, their general manager, said, hey, the stars of our team are going to be our offensive linemen. And they are. And they're just mauling people so far. And the other thing about Harbaugh is he's really, really a smart guy. And it appears as if he kind of knows what's coming from the other team.
Yeah, it really does. I get what you're saying there, Randy. I get what you're saying. Stop
Stallions
it.
on the sideline there for the Chargers.
Where is he? That's a great question. Where is Connor Stallions now?
He's coaching high school football. He was a coordinator at first, and then something happened with the head coach. He's now a head coach of high school football, I believe, in Michigan.
He lost by 40 to 50 points in his first game.
Oh, no. I guess he's not scouting teams anymore, is he?
Maybe the battery on the camera died.
Might have to go back to the vacuum business.
4th down.
All right, 4th down. The Steelers somehow find a way. Justin Fields, they find a way. I did tell you guys, remember, going into the season, one of my predictions was that Justin Fields would be the QB #1 for the Steelers. Now, it wasn't exactly in the fashion that I was expecting, and things exactly haven't been great for him at times. The Steelers have 1 touchdown and 138 penalty yards through 2 weeks, and yet they're 2-0 and atop of the AFC North. Mike Tomlin somehow always finds a way.
He finds a way. And you think about coaches, and we were just talking about Jim Harbaugh. The fact is, Justin Fields couldn't get it done in Chicago, and yet he's finding a way. I'm a big fan of Justin Fields, and I know I'm the only one in this group that feels this way.
I'm a big fan, too.
I think he can play, and so they're finding a way to use his skill set. They're running the ball. Their defense is fantastic, and Mike Tomlin is kind of one of the coaches I look at that you'd have to say is one of the best in the National Football League. There's no doubt about it.
There are very few people that can adjust to the talent that they have. That do it. I can't say that do adjust to the talent. John Harbaugh obviously changed his offense for Lamar Jackson. And the Steelers, I mean, this is not the same offense you're going to run with Mason Rudolph. And Mike Tomlin and his staff, Arthur Smith, they have adapted to the talents of Justin Fields. Now, they haven't scored a lot, but one thing about a Mike Tomlin Steelers team, you know, as the season goes along, they're going to get better.
Oh, my word. TJ Watt, too, what he is able to do, he was just absolutely killing Bo Nix this past weekend. He is unbelievable. I might change my mind. I know we talked about Micah Parsons being possibly the Defensive Player of the Year. I don't know. After this weekend, seeing Myles Garrett and seeing TJ Watt, it's kind of a toss-up between the two for me now.
TJ would win his fourth, right? He's won 3 already. Speaking of defensive players of the year, this is a fifth down. It's kind of like Colorado and Mizzou.
Son of a...
Careful, Rocc.
The Carolina Panthers are an outlier. They're far and away the worst team in the league, right? And they've allowed 73 points. Second most points allowed in the league, the Los Angeles Rams. How much of a difference does Aaron Donald not being there make? One guy out of the 11 can turn your defense from good when he's there to bad when he's not. And Aaron Donald, clear Hall of Famer, but an amazing difference maker over the years, and now we're seeing why.
Yeah, and people are pointing to their offense without Puka Nacua, without Cup being there, but defensively they're giving up a ton, an absolute ton.
67 points in 2 games.
Ouch. And speaking of Carolina, they've been outscored 73-13 in their games. I'm going with Caleb Williams as my 4th or 6th down, whatever it is. 36 pressures on 42 attempts. 36 pressures on 42 attempts. And he is the 6th fastest QB to get the ball out. They can't protect him. And that's a real problem when you have the number 1 overall pick and the speed of the game and trying to get the ball out. He is the 6th fastest to get the ball out. Tells me the offensive line isn't doing squat for the Chicago Bears.
No, not whatsoever.
And they've drafted a lot of guys high lately, so they need to coach them up and get them playing.
Yep.
Where's Jim Hannafin when you need him? They should hire. I wonder if my guy John Masco is doing anything. He should probably go to Chicago. Hannafin disciple, great offensive line coach. He was in Washington for a long time. I don't know. He's in his 70s now, but John Matsko would be better than what they got. Guarantee you that.
And you wonder at some point, does Caleb Williams just get shell-shocked?
Yeah.
He looked shell-shocked in that game on Sunday. I just felt like, man, he's getting beat up. They're picking him up after every single play. And kind of like Bryce Young was last year, you get shell-shocked, and you got to be real careful if you're the Chicago Bears.
Should have kept Andy Dalton.
Could have. Why not?
I always like having that guy that's going to get beat up. You know, why aren't you playing your rookie? Well, because our offensive line isn't good enough. So I always like having that veteran guy that's willing just to take the hits.
Yeah.
Stay in the pocket, get beat up, totally.
Where's my guy?
Matsko was last on the on Rivera's staff with the Commanders in 2022. Did he play at Kent State with Gary Pinkel and Nick Saban?
He may have.
That's insane.
Jack Lambert was there.
Yeah, I got to look this up now.
How about that? So there you have it. Those are 4 downs from the NFL. Coming
like
up,
6 or 7.
Yeah, well,
it's a lot.
we're just like the NFL. We've got bad officiating too. Hey, the Pirates are young and they got a lot of things going for them. Are you worried about the Pirates against the Cardinals in the future? That's next on the opening drive on 101 ESPN.
I'm Brandon Kiley.
Football season is the best time of the year, especially for your daily fantasy. Now, I know it's a Tuesday. It is kind of a dark day when it comes to our football daily fantasy, but don't worry. The best part about Underdog Fantasy is it's not just football. There are all the different ways to play. Yeah, you can start getting your entries in for week 3 of the NFL season. Get ready with that Thursday night game, or you can go ahead and start putting in your entries for Major League Baseball games tonight. Go ahead and bet lower on all the Cardinals players in their game tonight. That'd probably be good for you, or you can just spread your bets or spread your entries around all the other MLB games. Like I said, you can always get your MLB and your NFL entries in right now for week 3. Those Thursday entries are already ready to go. Just select higher or lower, and you can win up to 1,000 times your money. Over 1 million fans across 33 states got in the game last year by competing on Underdog. Making picks on Underdog is straightforward, and signing up is even easier. Just head over to Underdog's simple-to-use mobile app or to UnderdogFantasy.com. Sign up with promo code ROCC, and Underdog will give you a free pick to use on your first Cash Champions entry. It's going to get you started, and up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you deposit. That's Underdog Fantasy, promo code ROCC to claim your new customer special of a free pick and your deposit offer. Must be 18 plus and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Consumer play call 1-800-GAMBLER. Visit www.ncbgambling.org. This is Rocky with your Sports Center update, driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. Yesterday, the Cardinals jump out to a lead and take the win over the Pirates in Game 1 of their 4-game series, 4-0. Andre Pallante, fantastic in his start. 7 innings pitched, 4 hits, 0 earned runs, 1 walk, and 9 strikeouts. And the Cardinals gave Paul Skenes a rare loss. He did have a good game, 6 innings pitched, 4 hits, 1 earned run, 1 walk, and 7 strikeouts in that matchup. Cardinals are back in action today, 6:45 first pitch. It'll be the lefty Bailey Falter facing off against the righty for the Cardinals, Lance Lynn. Falter on the season is 8-7 with a 4.20 ERA. And then last night in Monday Night Football, a heartbreaking loss for the Philadelphia Eagles as they had a 21-16 lead with about a minute and a half left to play before Kirk Cousins and the Falcons marched down the field to take a 22-21 final lead in that Monday Night Football victory. That is your Sports Center update, driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. See them at londoff.com. Chevy, together we drive. Are you kidding me?
As Matthew mentioned, Cards and Pirates tonight, 6:45, Lynn against Falter. And even if Bailey would go like 5 scoreless and they would keep him in the game, there's a chance he would.
Falter. The jokes write themselves with that one.
They do. But you know what? He's had a good year. Bailey Falter is 8-7 with a 4.20. That's about league average right now. They've got Mitch Keller, who it looks like a solid number 2. And then they've got their front of the rotation guys. Skenes is going to be a stud. He's 10-3 with a 2.07. And Jared Jones, when he's healthy, is in there and has great stuff. And it looks like, to me, they've got players on their roster and on the way that give the Pirates a chance to be pretty good. They've obviously moved O'Neal Cruz to the outfield, and that changes things. But Brian Hayes is a really nice player. Brian Reynolds continues to have good years. They aren't perfect offensively, but it seems to me that the issues that the Pirates face, if they want to get better than the Cardinals, and they're in last place right now, the Pirates are, those issues can be solved by getting things that are easier to get than starting pitching.
Yeah, I would say that offensively they're still struggling now. Brian Hayes and O'Neal Cruz have been dealing with injuries, and O'Neal Cruz has definitely had some growing pains. He's been okay as a center fielder, but I don't know if you guys saw the game the other day prior to his injury. He really struggled out there in the outfield, and so that would be my one concern, is that if that works out or not for him, because they're working on things right now. They're trying different things out, which honestly, that's what you're supposed to do at this point of the season, is you're starting to transition, you're looking towards next year. They're trying players in different positions. I think that offensively, it's still just not there for them. And their bullpen, how do you fix that for them? Because that's been a huge issue for them this season, too.
It just comes down to pitching and starting pitching, and every fifth day they've got Paul Skenes. They've got Mitch Keller. They've got Jared Jones, and you went through the list of guys that are on this Pirates roster. But you need to learn how to win, and maybe Brian Reynolds could be that guy. Veterans that we're talking about, Andrew McCutchen is one of those guys this year for the Pirates, but they haven't won, and trying to get over the hump is something that is tough to do with a young team. Comparing it to the Cardinals, the rotation, again, it comes down to pitching. You don't know about Matz. What are you going to do with Michaelis? Pallante is still young, and I just gave the three with the Pirates that I would think give them the edge moving forward because they're starting pitching.
I would think that the thing that they could use most, Dan and Brooke, is an impact veteran that has one. I agree with you 100%. And we tend to underplay that. When the Cardinals were good a couple of years ago, it's no coincidence that Albert Pujols and Yadier Molina were in the room.
They were huge.
Yeah. And they kind of took over the clubhouse. And when Lance Berkman came here in 2011, and the Cardinals needed a leader. And at that point, it looked like Albert was going to be out the door. And Lance Berkman came in and made a difference with that team.
And in 12, Carlos Beltran.
Right. If the Pirates could find that guy, a position player, I think it'd make a huge difference for them.
And I think the difference between the two franchises, will you go out and spend? You know, the Pirates, if you look at their track record of keeping players and going out to go get players, they don't do it. And that's what they need, in my opinion, to get them over the hump.
And that's, by the way, in signing Hayes to the long-term contract and signing Reynolds to the long-term contract, it appears as if Bob Nutting, their owner, has kind of turned the corner in terms of keeping young players around.
I was going to say, because of those contracts, it really surprised me how the Pirates have changed their approach, because we know that the Pirates owner is very stingy, I think is the best way to put it, with his money. But then it seemed like that was more of a transition where you knew for a while that the Pirates, they had good players, almost like the Rays, where they would have a great young player, but you knew they wouldn't be staying there for long, that they'd be gone out of the organization. But that was a change to be able to sign some of those young guys. Will they be able to add to their payroll? I think would be another question. But does that even guarantee you anything anymore in Major League Baseball?
Paul Skenes has made 21 big league starts. He's given up a total of 29 earned runs. You can't waste him. Yeah. And you know, he's going to make, let's just say he stays healthy, or if he has Tommy John, he comes back, all these guys come back, and you still got Paul Skenes. You can't waste him. Every fifth day, he's going to give you a chance to win. And if you get into postseason play, I'll take Paul Skenes over anybody. I don't care who your number one is. Even if it's Chris Sale, who's having an amazing year, Paul Skenes is going to give you a chance to win. And that's where I'm at. I just don't think if you're the Pirates, you can waste a generational type talent like that. And he is unbelievable. He was great again last night. The 3-0 pitch to Arenado turned out to be a base hit and a run batted in, and the Cardinals got momentum for the rest of the game. But still, Paul Skenes is kind of the key to this thing, making sure you keep him, and try as you might, you want to try to lock him up as you move forward.
Do you kind of wish that you would be able to face the Pirates more? Obviously, you still face them, but not as much as prior to the balanced schedule. Do you wish that we could see the Pirates a little bit more? Because now that you have Paul Skenes, this is a little bit more of an exciting group, and especially with the track record that we pointed out earlier of how the Cardinals actually have success against Paul Skenes. Don't you kind of want to see them more? No, you don't want to see them more, because then the odds won't be in your favor anymore?
I think they're about to turn the corner. I think I've enjoyed watching the Pirates when they were really bad over the course of most of the last 30 years. I think they're about to turn the corner. And I think they're one or two position players away. And obviously filling out a bullpen, which is the easiest thing to do. And Bednar is a good closer when he's going.
He's had a tough year.
Yeah, he
had
has.
A really bad year.
But I would think that they can fill the holes that they need to fill with relative ease and become a pretty good team pretty quickly.
Yeah, you think about like how the Kansas City Royals have done that this year, plug and play with veterans. If I'm the Pirates, I'm doing that. I'm finding my deficiencies in my lineup and plug and play with a veteran, and you're hoping that you get a guy that's won before too.
Yeah. Dan, Brooke, Randy, it is the opening drive on 101 ESPN. Coming up, we've got Take It or Leave It. Get your text into the Air Comfort Service text line.
Yo-ho.
Thank you. 314-399-9646. 314-399-YO-HO. Tioli next on 101 ESPN. Love to talk about local companies, and a great local company is Together Credit Union. And our friends at TCU, Together Credit Union, just launched a brand new high-yield checking account called Empower Checking. With Empower Checking, you earn above-market interest on the money you keep in your day-to-day checking account. That's right, you're earning interest on your checking account with Empower Checking at Together Credit Union. Interest is paid to you each month. It's a checking account that rewards you for balances and not for activity. To apply, all you need to do is visit togethercu.org or stop by any of their 14 local St. Louis area branches and work directly with one of their amazing friendly member advocates. And when you get Empower Checking, don't forget to get your debit card. The City SC debit card gives you express entry into City Park. It gives you 10% discounts on merchandise and food when you go to a City SC game at City Park. So get that City SC debit card when you get Empower Checking at Together Credit Union and get paid to save with Empower Checking. Visit togethercu.org/empower for full terms and details. Membership eligibility required. Together Credit Union, federally insured by the NCUA.
Take it or leave it.
Brought to you by Gloria Lou Realty. Visit GloriaHasTheBuyers.com and start packing.
That's my final offer. Take it or leave it.
All right, take it or leave it. Hashtag sad. Herbert's Elevator Club at 140. Taking shots with Ricky, 86. Take it or leave it. Brooke is better at fantasy football than Randy.
Oh, well, I might have to take it just for this week. That was a rough week one for me because for whatever reason, Kyler Murray could not get the ball to Marvin Harrison Jr., but he figured it out then week two that if he gets the ball to him, good things happen. So I'll take it just for this week. It was a hard-fought battle, Randy.
I don't think it was.
No? Well, just imagine if Saquon would have actually caught that ball last night.
Yeah, then it would have been, what, 146 to 88?
Wouldn't have been as
140
bad.
to 88, yeah.
Wouldn't have been as much of a blowout.
Coach Stallings would have said, we were kind of scuffling.
I'll let you two fight this out.
No, she's better.
It was a rough week one for me, though, Dan. So I'm having a rebound here. All right, take it or leave it. It seems like there's a theme right now with young quarterbacks getting benched for other quarterbacks. Will Levis, as we know, has had some very rough moments. Callahan seems to be over him in a lot of different ways. Take it or leave it. Mason Rudolph will take over here soon as QB number one for the Titans.
Totally leave it. No.
That is seriously their backup. Yeah. I'm not kidding. That is really the Titans' backup is Mason Rudolph.
That's funny.
Now, why is it so funny, Randall?
Because Mason Rudolph is not a very good NFL quarterback that I've seen so far.
Okay. All right, take it or leave it. I'm going to do
Are
a little.
Are you leaving it?
Yeah, I'll leave it. I'm with you. Scott Boras. I'm going to get into Scott Boras here just a little bit. And so
Scobo.
His top flight free agents, which included star third baseman Matt Chapman, failed to get long-term big money deals that they expected to land. However, Buster Posey, who serves on the Giants executive board, had to personally take over negotiations with Chapman to make this happen. Take it or leave it. Boras clients will start making their own decisions, and former players will step in to help make said decision.
I'm going to take that.
I will take that. Man, how things have changed for Scott Boras. It felt like he held all the power, but then everything and how that unfolded this past offseason, it feels like the Major League Baseball owners. Now, of course, you can't say collusion. I'm sure that maybe there was something going on there communication-wise. They found out a way to really box out Scott Boras and his clients.
What do you do with the general manager in San Fran? I know you follow the Giants a lot because Patrick, your son, loves the Giants. What do you do with Zahidi? I mean, that's something you got to think about, too. He's been there 6 years now, and they have not gotten to where they need to be.
No, and they've gone through a couple of managers, and they brought in Bob Melvin as the answer this year after they got rid of Gabe Kapler. He'd won 107 games in 2021. And apparently, Dan, the problem is the city. Players don't want to go to San Francisco anymore. The two cities most affected by the COVID, according to a lot of reports, are San Francisco and St. Louis. And San Francisco is just a place where stars don't want to go play. They had their deal with Correa, and he had the leg injury issue, which he's been able to play for Minnesota. But they went after Ohtani. They went after Judge. They went after another big-time star besides Correa, and players just don't want to play there. And I don't know that a general manager is going to be able to fix that.
I think it'd be interesting if former players get more involved in this and take a current player and say, are you happy where you're at and you're making generational-type money? What else do you want? Make sure you stay in a place that you're happy.
And it depends on the guy. For example, Matt Holliday clearly doesn't question Scott Boras, right? Because his son is using Scott Boras.
And a bunch of guys don't.
Right.
I mean, he's the best for a reason in what you do. Yep. So, but I do wonder, just a handful of guys start dealing with former players and saying, this is the direction you need to be thinking about before you make your decision.
I wonder what Jordan Montgomery has to say about Scott Boras.
That's what I was wondering, too.
But Blake Snell has come to his defense many times, to your point, about players defending Scott Boras.
Right. We look at production for players, and they're looking at the paycheck.
Absolutely. And that's, Scott Boras was able to get guys, and so many guys, probably hundreds of guys, the best deal they can get. He's got a compound out in California where players go during the offseason. I mean, he is the Uber agent, but still it comes down, are you happy and how much is enough?
And what happened to Scott Boras is he's brilliant. He was ahead of the analytics movement and had all of the cold, calculated value on players, and now every team has that vehicle. So every player has a price, and it doesn't vary much between teams. And so Boras is having to sift through offers and expects teams now to make emotional buys, which they don't do anymore. That's what he had. His advantage was he could get owners on the phone and get them to make emotional buys, and that just doesn't happen anymore. All right, Matthew, what do we got on the text line?
Take it or leave it. Nick Sirianni gets fired before Brian Daboll.
I'll leave it. I think that, well, Randy, you're thinking about this. I'm going with Daboll will be first.
I think Daboll will, too.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think Nick Sirianni, just because of the way they operate in Philly, I think that he's got to be thought of as on the hot seat. Now, one of the problems that Howie Roseman will have is he's the one that brought in Moore and Fangio. He's the one that built Nick Sirianni's staff. But Fangio's been a head coach in the NFL. Moore has interviewed for a lot of jobs. They have valid interim coaching prospects on their staff.
And they started 10-1. On the flip side, I'd say they started 10-1 last year. They have dropped now 7 of 9. You're early in a season. You've got a lot of talent. And do you say that someone else can turn this thing around? It's just something to think about. Matthew.
It's a conversation being had across Philly radio stations.
Absolutely.
God, that'd be hilarious.
That was fun today,
It's fun to yell. Take it or leave it. The Titans are Jameis Winston away from being dangerous.
For being dangerous. Yeah, I'll
in
take
fairness,
it.
most places in America are Jameis Winston away from being dangerous.
Yes, that's very fair. Where is Jameis now? He's a backup for Cleveland. Yeah.
So, Cleveland.
I would much rather have him starting in Cleveland.
Well, you never know when he's going to be forced to be.
Yeah.
It could happen any day.
Yep.
And that's very true. I will say I will never forget all the picks, the interceptions.
I don't care. That 30 for 30 season was magical. I don't care what anybody says. If you did not enjoy watching the Buccaneers that season, you're lying to yourself.
He's a fun personality.
It was
too.
so much fun to watch that happen.
By the way, speaking of the Bucs, how good is Baker Mayfield?
Yeah.
Oh.
He's a hell of a player, man.
That's one thing, if you are a fan of the Browns, is that ownership went out and made the trade and gave the contract to Deshaun Watson and jettisoned Baker Mayfield for nothing. And Mayfield won a playoff game for the Cleveland Browns. Think about that. A guy won a playoff game for the Cleveland Browns.
relative to quarterbacks you had in your building, who feels worse right now, Browns fans or Panthers fans? Because they had
Always
Sam
Browns
Darnold
fans.
and Baker Mayfield in the
Yep.
building, and they couldn't figure it out.
Probably Browns fans because they actually won with their guy.
I do.
The Panthers aren't going to win under this ownership.
Speaking of that, speaking of that too as well. Take it or leave it. This is just a perfect take it or leave it after that comment. Take it or leave it. The Carolina Panthers are worse than the Chicago White Sox.
I will leave it. There's not many things that are as bad as the White Sox. I don't know what the White Sox plan is. I still can't just figure out.
Oh,
what
they said they're going to cut payroll.
I saw that portion of it,
Yeah.
which makes it
How?
even worse. What are they trying to relocate? I'm on it. This is an honest question I have. After seeing the payroll comments that you mentioned, Dan, which came out in Bob Nightingale's report here recently, it seems to me like they're setting up for a move.
How can you
They've
cut
tried
payroll?
before.
How can you cut payroll on a team that is that bad?
And who would want to go there anyways? The players, I feel like they're being held hostage at this point.
Yeah, they're paying Moncada. They're paying Robert. Are they paying any other players?
No.
That's it?
Crochet wants to be paid soon.
Yeah,
If I was him, I would have
maybe
gotten out a long time ago.
Yeah, how would you like to be the person that gets traded to Chicago when they trade Crochet? That'd be a bummer.
And what do they have? The 10th overall pick? So it's
Yeah.
not number one, it's 10th.
Right.
Take it or leave it, Dan. Some of your friends might want to actually take this. Take it or leave it to the counter, if you will. Take it or leave it. Caden Clark wins WNBA MVP in the next 3 years.
Oh, I'm going
I'll
to take
take
that for
that.
sure.
It sounds like your friends have
Take
already
it.
been to the counter with that one.
Well, you got to go with Caitlin Clark. I mean, how do you not?
It's Asia Wilson's to win for the next 2 years, and then I think in that third-year window, that's when Clark beats out Asia Wilson for the first one, I think.
All right. I can take that. She's going to win an MVP, though, for sure.
No doubt
Yes.
about it. She's Rookie of the Year in the WNBA this year.
Oh,
Yeah.
God.
She's going to win everything.
I like how we were all playing a little game where we were pretending like she might not win Rookie of the Year for like a month or two there. It's pretty dumb. Take it or leave it. If the Vikings beat the Texans this weekend, you have to consider them Super Bowl contenders.
Take it.
Super Bowl contenders. You're all in on that?
Well,
Yeah,
I don't think the NFC is that great.
I think the Vikings have been such a surprise, so I will give them that.
My friends tell me the Texans will win and potentially win big.
Oh, really?
So the Vikings will not be a Super Bowl contender.
Okay.
You guys don't like that pick.
I wouldn't put money on it if I were your friends.
Yeah. We need to bring Andrew Marsh in here, and he could break the whole thing down with the Vikings.
He's a Viking guy.
Yeah.
Oh, he has to be just ecstatic right now because everybody thought that the Vikings were not going to be able to do what they're doing this year.
I wonder if JJ will be able to play this weekend, too. He says he's going to be able to, but those quad injuries, you never know. All right. Thank you, Matthew.
Pleasure.
And we thank you for your text as well.
Oh.
Well, it could be whenever. Come on. It's my pleasure. That's what they say at Chick-fil-A.
My pleasure.
It's my pleasure.
It's my
You guys
pleasure.
get it one time.
Okay. Love that Chick-fil-A.
After 3 hours of hard work.
Oh, I had Chick-fil-A yesterday. It was delicious.
You did?
Yeah.
What'd
they
you
have
have?
some-
Number one?
No, I just got the tenders. I got the chicken tenders. I was in a
Okay.
mood for that.
Good.
It was
I like
so
that.
good.
Yeah. They have good ice
Get
there.
a spicy every once in a while.
Oh, no. I'm a number one all the way.
No, get a spicy. Live life.
Oh, the spicy is so good.
Live
though.
life.
Every
Get that
once in a
spicy
while.
every once in a while.
Not doing it.
Like
What's
once
in
every
a
like
number
4.
Number one
Just
is
the
simply an original chicken sandwich and the waffle fries with a Diet Dr. Pepper.
I'm in.
There you go.
Take it or leave it. I'm in.
You're taking.
Yeah, I'm taking that
it
for
every
sure.
day.
Yeah. Coming up, is there something wrong with coaching in football these days? Yes. We'll tell you what it is next on 101 ESPN. There's a cool thing about mentality because all of us as guys, we want to feel better. We want to have more energy. We want to have more physical stamina when we go for a workout to get through that workout or go for a bike ride or walk 18 holes of golf or just play 18 holes of golf. And with mentality, you can get that ability back. If you have passed your 30th birthday and you're feeling fatigued and you aren't able to get through those workouts or those golf walking matches like you used to, get to mentality. Go to lowtusa.com, set up your appointment today, and stop by one of their clinics, either in Chesterfield or South County. And what they're going to do is restore a testosterone level that drops naturally as you age. And when you get your testosterone level restored, you get your energy level restored. That fatigue goes by the wayside. A lot of those issues that you're dealing with, maybe with anxiety or maybe just with being not the person you want to be, they go by the wayside because mentality is going to make you better. Learn more at lowtusa.com, and they're going to work with your insurance company to make sure your out-of-pocket expenses are as low as possible. Get your energy level back. Get your life back the way you want it to be with mentality.
The biggest change to me is in these situations. I mean, going for it on fourth down, you see it when you're on your own side of the 50-yard line here. I mean, there was a time you would no more think about going for it here in the first quarter when you've got a chance to take a lead, and we've green-lighted all these coaches with analytics.
Hurts in trouble. And broken up, incomplete. Goddard was the target this time, and Mike Hughes defending, and instead of taking the chip shot field goal, the Eagles go for it on 4th and 4, and the Falcons defense makes the stop.
Troy Aikman and Joe Buck last night on ESPN. That was at the conclusion of a 10-play, 55-yard drive that easily could have resulted in points for the Philadelphia Eagles. You heard the incomplete pass from Hurts to Goddard, and the Eagles wind up losing the game by a point, 22-21. If they kick that field goal, it changes the momentum of the game. It changes the game. It used to be, back in my day, when Joe Gibbs was coaching or Jimmy Johnson was coaching or Tom Landry was coaching or Bill Parcells or Bill Walsh were coaching, there was an adage that you didn't leave points on the field. And for whatever reason, the analytics movement has changed that. And for whatever reason, they think that it's more important, and it always is more important, to get a touchdown than a field goal. But it's also more important to get points than no points. And unless you have 100% play, which there isn't such thing as, in a game like that, in the first quarter last night, you kick that field goal and you take the lead. I go back a couple of years ago, guys, to the Michigan TCU game in the national semifinal, the Final Four, and Harbaugh's team rolled down the field, and they get down to the 1-yard line, and Harbaugh does the most un-Harbaugh thing in the world. On fourth down, he goes for it, gets stopped, and then all the momentum changed in the game. And TCU took it down the field, they scored, and Michigan was never really in it because Harbaugh did the most un-Harbaugh thing in the world in leaving points on the field. You just, if you want to win games, you can listen to your analytics guys all you want. But I'm telling you, it's better to have points than not points.
Wouldn't analytics also give you the odds, though, that would show that it would be more favorable to actually take the field goal in that situation? That's the thing that I don't understand, is that if you're talking about analytics and the odds there in that situation, it would show you that more times than not, just taking the field goal, especially when you're just looking to build a lead, it's early in the game, there's no reason to really do that in that situation, that the probability would be higher to take the field goal. Same thing with 3rd and 3 in the game that we were talking about in that situation last night. Wouldn't the analytics show you that the probability would be higher that if you run the ball rather than pass in that situation to Saquon Barkley, that it would work out more times than not?
This is even more so than baseball, in my opinion. This is the eye test. I love Nick Saban's approach, where he says every single play in a football game takes on a life and a story of its own. I kind of talked to A.J. McCarron about that. We had A.J. McCarron in studio during the season, and I said that was one of my favorite things. And he said he infuse that to us every single day, that every single play takes on a life of its own. And a coach has to be able to look at that. You can't look at a spreadsheet, and say, okay, here's what's going to happen on this play. It just doesn't work that way in football.
You know what drives me crazy is when you don't bunt with a runner at second in extra innings.
Yeah, right.
Analytics say to go for it. Just a baseball look at what's happening with football. I mentioned it earlier. The head coach, to me, has got a couple of things. When do you go for it? And clock management. You know, those are two things that you have to do properly. By the way, that was funny in the highlight, all the fans booing. It was the first home game, and they're booing in the first quarter.
Yeah, right.
That's Philly fans for you.
They're ruthless.
They are. So with 1:56 left in the fourth, the Falcons had a 0.7% chance of winning the game. That was per Next Gen Stats. So they should have won the game, obviously. And Randy, you and Brooke, I mean, you guys really get into the look at the assistant coaches. One of the things, if I'm Nick Sirianni, I got to wonder about what's going on with my defense. They allowed and have allowed 7 yards a carry. They're last in the National Football League. So that's talking about the defense side. Now, can a coach get you over the hump and win you a game? I'll go with Andy Reid. Because the Chiefs, 1 for 8 on third down, 3 turnovers. Mahomes only threw for 151 yards. They benched their starting tackle after penalties. Kelsey had 1 catch for 5 yards. They found a way. So a head coach can find a way with some of the play calling that, they jump in on a play call with the offensive coordinator and say, we're going to do this. Head coach has a lot to do with that, and that's why you win or lose some of the games.
And they were just sitting there watching, basically, Kirk Cousins orchestrate that touchdown drive there at the end to win it. I don't know. I think going back to your question, Randy, about analytics and if that's a big factor there, I don't doubt that analytics gets in the way. I just think that, too, it's a feel for the game, the gut instinct, which we also talk about a lot in sports, is that the gut instinct was not there in those situations. He was trying to get way too cute, and the right thing to do is right in front of you. You run the ball. You don't pass it in that situation. They've been running the ball effectively all night. You take the field goal. You take the points. You don't leave points out there on the field.
And that's the thing. Even if you don't get the first down, the clock is still rolling because Atlanta doesn't have any timeouts.
They'd be down to just over 40 seconds in that spot. Didn't agree clearly with the move. However, we'd wake up this morning if he makes the catch and say, boy, that's a riverboat gambler. And he did go with his gut, and it worked. And surprised everybody across the country that he made that move. So it's not, in my opinion, it wasn't the right move, but that's just the flip side of how we would evaluate the move made by Nick Sirianni late in that game.
We got to change how we evaluate stuff then, because even if Saquon Barkley caught the ball and they won the game, everyone should have come on here and said, whoever called that Saquon Barkley play needs to be taken into a room and excoriated for an hour on what are you doing? You blew the game. Like, it's a mistake. I don't care how, take away what happens with the ball. It is an unequivocal, inexcusable mistake, whoever made that call on the Eagles sideline, to call a pass play there. I don't care what happens. It's dumb in the first place, whether it gets dropped or caught. Stop making mistakes. It's a stupid thing, and Troy Aikman called it green lighting. I think we've short-circuited coaches' brains, because I think you have some coaches who don't know if they want to be aggressive. You have some coaches that they don't want to be conservative. Because the one that stands out to me over the weekend will always be Stoops in Georgia territory, punting the ball. Obviously, they got a 5-yard delay of game that moved them, I think, to their 49. But they were in Georgia territory, and they choose to punt the ball despite having a chance to take down Georgia. And then Georgia just sits on the ball after they get the punt back, and they win the game. Kentucky doesn't get a chance. I think we've broken coaches' brains with just the way that we look at game management and clock management, because there's so many coaches who are bad at it. Barry Odom, huge win for UNLV. He almost blew that game with just some of the worst clock management I've ever seen, and that's, of course, after him being at the forefront in front of national television with terrible clock management against a Georgia team. So it's just, we've broken coaches, I think.
Go back to Eli against K-State last year. How lucky did he get, right?
I mean, he might. I don't know if he's right now, with the way that history changes and the ripple effects, I don't know if right now, if Eli Drinkwitz is the coach of Missouri, if they do not hit that kick against Kansas State.
Agreed.
It's that crazy, but that's how big of that mistake would have been in the moment if they don't hit that kick.
We get a text from the 314. Here's why it's not dumb, and here's why I think what you're saying is wrong. If they didn't get the first down, they kick a field goal, and Atlanta does the exact same thing because he knows his defense can't stop them. They haven't in 2 years in those. Well, here's the thing. You take virtually a minute off the clock if you run the ball. And they get the ball. Atlanta gets the ball with 40 seconds left. I don't know what.
Instead of a minute 40.
Yeah, they didn't have any timeouts.
And
left.
how much time did the Eagles get with the ball? About 30 seconds. So just do the math. The math ain't math in there. What the bottom line is that even if the Falcons have a chance, we're talking about maybe a ball from the 30 where Kirk Cousins has to throw a touchdown pass with 4 zeros on the clock. That's a very different thing than getting Drake London in a short yardage situation where you can run a quick zig on Darius Slay. Completely different situations. We're talking about a probability of hitting the play of 4% versus 60.
Yeah, it's a different animal when you get the ball with 1:43 as opposed to getting the ball with 40 seconds left.
How good was Kirk Cousins, though?
He was great.
Don't overlook that. They changed how they used him in week 2. A lot of play action. He handles pressure. He stays in the pocket. I thought he was awesome last night. When you're down the stretch.
Oh, he was fantastic there. He was cool, calm, and collected in that situation because literally the Eagles just handed it over to him to take over and do what he needed to do. Now, looking at coaches in the hot seat, which I think it's fair to bring up a lot of these names here because these are already teams that we are talking about. We just talked about Nick Sirianni. Where is he on your ranking of hot seat with the NFL coaches? You also have Brian Daboll. You also have Doug Peterson with the Jags. Is there a ranking that you have right now for those head coaches? Am I missing one, too?
I would say that based on what we're reading and hearing, that Daboll would probably be on top because of his quarterback situation.
Yeah.
And they went to the playoffs a couple of years ago, but they had Saquon then, and they're a different team now.
I think the Giants miss him a little bit.
Yeah, I think they do. I would think that Sirianni is, and I would think that that Peterson is. However, the Jaguars, when they made the playoffs a couple of years ago, started 2-6, and I think that owners, especially owners that have been there with a coach or a franchise, in Peterson's other 2 years that he made the playoffs in Philly, they started 3-4. So I would hope that they have a little bit more patience than making a judgment on a 1-1 team after 2 games. They beat Green Bay in their opener. So I don't know if I would make a judgment based upon the 2 calls last night.
I know. Well, the thing is, though, is that fans react a lot, especially in Philly. We just talked about how ruthless that they are, and they might want to change here soon, especially with the way that they looked. You mentioned defensively and then offensively, the miscues there. You could definitely put that loss on Brian Daboll. I know that there was a lot of other player factors. You could put it on Saquon Barkley, but I mentioned this. When you're slicing up the blame pie, I think that he gets the biggest slice of that one.
Doug Peterson and his club looks terrible. And they've got some weapons. So I would put him at 3, Sirianni 2, and then Daboll, I would put him at number 1. And you made a great point, Brooke, is look at the media market, look at the fan bases. Short leash. When you're in those markets, very short leash.
My other thing is, they were going to play to the sidelines when you want to keep the clock running and you are going to have to kick a field goal from a short yardage situation, why are you putting the ball outside the hash marks in the first place? Like, overall, just if you're going to call a pass play, why not do a quick shuttle pass or something like that in front of your quarterback that, like, keeps the clock rolling, keeps the ball central, and has no chance of the guy accidentally getting thrown out of bounds and stopping the clock.
I would feel better about it.
It's a bad play.
If they just threw it into the end zone, I would feel better if they would have tried to score a touchdown. If that was their philosophy, okay, we wanted to put it away so they couldn't catch us. If you throw it into the end zone, that makes more sense than throwing it down to the 3-yard line.
Yeah, it doesn't. Well, going back to Doug Peterson, too, the Jags owner said, and he's the one that made this bold statement, that this is the most talented team in the franchise's 30-year history. So that's a lot of pressure. He just gave Trevor Lawrence that giant contract. So if it's not working with Trevor Lawrence, with this coaching staff, then I can see them making some changes there.
Yeah. By the way, he's wrong.
Tom Coughlin may disagree with that. He had some pretty good teams.
He did, and they 5 years ago, they had a franchise, and Shad Khan owned the team, that had 6 Pro Bowl defensive players.
Yep.
So he's probably going with the selective memory thing. And I would hope, and hey, they've struggled as an ownership group, but he hired a coach who has a history of his teams getting better and better as the season goes along. I would hope that he would understand that that's what he hired. This is not a 14-2 team that he's got. It might be talented, but they aren't a 14-2 team. So I would hope that they would give the coach an opportunity to do what he's done in the past. He started off 2-6, made the playoffs. 3-4 made the playoffs. 3-4 made the playoffs. 1-1 when 13-3 won the Super Bowl. And are they 1-1 now? Are the Jags are they 0-2? They lost to Miami,
I believe.
Weekend.
They're 0-2.
Yeah. So
and then they face the Bills. So there's a big possibility of going 0-3.
Yeah. So we'll see. Should be interesting. And you know what'll be interesting is with the impatience and guys. Sirianni was in trouble down the stretch. He was until they decided last year to change coordinators. There was a talk that he would get whacked. Daboll was in trouble. I'll be interested to see if teams try to get ahead on the Belichick train and make moves during the season rather than during the offseason.
He has to be waiting for the perfect situation, right?
Yeah.
Like whatever he's looking for, the perfect situation for him to come into.
Yeah, he needs a young Tom Brady.
Well, they got Daniel Jones in New York.
Oh, there you go. Coming up next on 101 ESPN is the defensive play of Thomas Saggese to start his career changed how he should be viewed by Cardinal fans. That's next on 101 ESPN.
Hey, it's Danny Mac for Stewart's American Mortgage on this Tuesday morning. If you're someone who is looking to purchase a home or refinance, or if you're looking to consolidate some of that ugly credit card debt, maybe you don't know exactly what direction to go to in any of these things. Hey, let's make it easy for you. Call Stewie from Stewart's American Mortgage, and he's going to help you every step of the way. If it's a new home you're looking to purchase, he'll get you to the closing table fast. How fast, you may be asking. Try 10 days. He will get you the best interest rate possible, and he also has the bagel loan that can help you out too. So what's the bagel loan? If you borrow $200,000 or more, there's no underwriting fees, no appraisal fees, no title fees, no lender fees, and no closing costs. Stewart is your guy. He makes it easy. Any questions on rates, the industry, the trends, give Stewie a call. Call him directly. Here's his personal cell phone, 314-324-4440. Again, that number, 314-324-4440, or you can Google the bagel loan.
NMLS number 226715.
Thomas Saggese has proven himself to be an interesting prospect for the Cardinals in his first couple of weeks in the big leagues. The Cardinals took their time in calling him up, and he's been a versatile performer, playing shortstop, playing second. He has shown himself, at least at the minor league level, to be a reasonable hitter. We were told consistently from the time the Cardinals got him that his defense was lacking. I kind of like what I see defensively from Thomas Saggese. I don't know if he's an everyday player, but I certainly am more willing now that I've seen his defense to give him the benefit of the doubt defensively than I was before when I hadn't seen him.
Yeah, exactly. I was actually pleasantly surprised because we have talked about before about the reports or kind of the things that we were hearing about maybe scouting-wise he wasn't there defensively, but really I think that he's been just fine. And this is why I want to see those younger players, because then they can take that into the offseason and can continue to grow. You heard Ollie Marmol earlier in the show talk about Andre Pallante and how he is kind of the poster child for how to handle things the offseason approaching a new season. I think this is a way for a lot of these younger players to grow, including Thomas Saggese. Now, how much does it change things when you're looking at this team for next year? Is Thomas Saggese a part of that equation? Does he become an everyday player?
I'm not an everyday player, but I look at him as being coming off the bench, and to me, he's been more than just fine. He has really surprised me with his defense, being able to play up the middle, having a guy that's versatile. I would imagine he probably can play a little third base as well, and that's something he's going to have to do to stick around. He's shown he can hit a little bit. The league will figure him out, so he'll have to make the adjustment back to, how they're getting him out. It's kind of like what Jordan Walker is dealing with right now with pitches on the middle or the outer half. Mm-hmm. He's laying off some of those pitches. He's making adjustments. So as Tommy Saggese moves forward in his career, both offensively and defensively, but in particular offensively, making adjustments, he's going to have to do that. But his defense has surprised me because, I watch a lot of minor league games, and he was okay. But watching him in the major league games with the speed of the game and how he's had range, and I don't think his arm has been a question, at least at this point. He's been fine. I think he's shown that he can play at this level.
And so the Cardinals are pretty well set, I think, for next year, right? With Wynn at short. We know that he's going to be there. And you'd think that if everybody's healthy, that Donovan will probably be at second base. You mentioned third base. We don't know what Nolan Arenado is going to be. I would love to see Saggese be that guy that could play second, third, short. And he needs to be utilized in the proper way so that you can get him 300, 350 at-bats. But it's nice to know, because the Cardinals have gone through most of this year without a representative backup shortstop. And that's the key for me, is if Donovan, he's had injury issues, if he goes down for a month, if Wynn would go down for a month, if Arenado would go down for a month, nice to have a guy that you feel like you can count on in that position, because Cardinals didn't feel like they could count on Brandon Crawford. They hoped. He was the one guy that had done it in the organization. I don't think you can count on Jose Fermin to be a guy, but Saggese might be a guy where, okay, Wynn isn't available for 30 games. You can plug him in there and get representative play out of him.
So important to have a good utility guy that can play up the middle. That's something to think about, too, is this is not a fourth outfielder. This is a guy, as you mentioned, Randy, can play a vital role, potentially, and we started the segment talking about his defense. He has made some plays that have really surprised me because of what we've heard that trying to get to this level, that was one of the knocks on him. Is that could he play defense at this level? And I think he's answering some of those questions.
So where's Nolan Gorman when you guys are looking at next year?
I think right now he would be your DH, but he's got to be better. He can't be a designated swinger. He's got to be a designated hitter.
That would be my concern. And then also you would have 3 catchers still, unless you change something. Where's Ivan Herrera? Where is Pedro Pajes? Where is Wilson Contreras? By the way, Wilson Contreras, it looks like he will miss the rest of the season as he's still recovering with a broken finger. But we've seen Wilson Contreras also be your DH at times. We've also seen Paul Goldschmidt get some time as your DH too. That's my question, is how do they handle the DH position for next year? Because that seems like there's a logjam there.
My question is, how did this happen? With those names you just mentioned, Brooke, how did they not have a better offense? The last thing I thought about going into the season was that they would not be able to score runs, or there'd be a situation where runners in scoring position would be the story of the season, which it is in my opinion. With the names that you're talking about, how is the offense go? How has it gone that south? To me, it's just a shocking aspect of this team.
It's amazing, and I have no idea because I think the talent is there. That being said, if the right trade would come up, and I said this last offseason too about Nolan Gorman, and if Nolan Gorman still has value, if he could be the centerpiece of a trade for Skubal, you make that move. Although I thought that he should have been the centerpiece if you were going to make a logical move for a guy like Dylan Cease. I don't know that the Cardinals were in on him, but I still think the Cardinals during this offseason are going to need a number 1 starting pitcher. If you can move a guy like that and get. And he'd have to be the starting point. He's not making. You're not making a 1-for-1, unfortunately. But if you need to get a legitimate front of the rotation guy, I wouldn't be brokenhearted if they would make a move like that.
Yeah, but it has to be for the right trade, as you mentioned there. It would have to be one that makes a lot of sense, but you also have to live with the fact that probably what you're going to see is Nolan Gorman turn into like a 30, 40 home run hitter guy.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that you've been burned so much by giving up some of these young players that have had success at other spots. I'm just not willing to give that up. And if you look at postseason play, left-handed batters are crucial. And guys that can hit for power and do damage. And we've seen it before. He can do that. I'm just not ready to give up on him just yet.
Cardinals aren't getting to the postseason unless they get a number 1 starting pitcher.
Agree with that.
Doesn't matter.
And I would assume that a lot of teams would be calling and saying, we'll take a chance on Nolan Gorman. We don't want this number 1 guy in terms of free agency breaking the bank. And if that's the case, one of the first players, if I'm that opposing team, one of the first players I'm asking about is Nolan Gorman, just because his upside still is very high.
They have to be able, if they do keep him, find a way to be able to maximize him, because we don't want to see another situation where this player who has performed well all of a sudden just really regresses to the point where you really don't get much in the trade, like a Dylan Carlson. We also see that happen. So it either goes one of 2 ways, right, where we see that player leave the organization, or I guess just one way, where they leave the organization and then they succeed and do well with that organization. And you didn't get much in that trade because their value was so low when you traded them. I don't want to see that happen to Nolan Gorman.
If you maximize him, that means he's putting up numbers. And
they need that power offensively.
Absolutely. And at some point, it's incumbent on the player to put up numbers. He wasn't doing it here. Maybe a reset in the minor leagues helps him. You don't see him for the rest of the major league season. He clears his mind, gets ready for spring training, and it's a fresh year. That's the way I think you have to look at it if you're the organization.
And do they keep 3 catchers? That's another question this offseason.
I wouldn't, but it's something to consider because of the DH. You're able to put one of those guys at the DH, but I probably wouldn't keep 3 because I need more versatility on my infield, as Randy talked about. Going to carry a 4th outfielder. Yeah, it's something to think about, but I probably wouldn't do it.
Coming up, we've got the fight, and we need a fighter. You can text in 314-399-9646, 314-399-YO-HO. And if you text in with your name and the word fight, maybe you will fight me next on 101 ESPN. Hey, I want you to know about Chesterfield Fence and Deck. They do such great work in the St. Louis area, not only for fences and decks, but for sunrooms, screen rooms, pergolas, patios. If you are in the market for a home improvement project, you need to start with Chesterfield Fence and Deck. Give them a call at 800-300-4054 or find them on the web at chesterfieldfence.com. And what they're going to do is come out and visit with you, and they have really nice people that you're going to talk to. They're going to take all the measurements that you need taken for your particular project, and then they'll give you a free, no-obligation project design. Chesterfield Fence and Deck also has an incredible gallery of the jobs they've done over the last 56 years, and when you get to see those pictures, maybe you'll get some ideas about things that other people have had done that you hadn't thought of. When you call Chesterfield Fence and Deck and you set up a next outdoor project, know that you're going to get 20% off that next outdoor project when you mention Randy Carricker and 101 ESPN. It's Chesterfield Fence and Deck at 800-300-4054. On the web at chesterfieldfence.com. Chesterfield Fence and Deck, the sign you have the very best.
This is Rocc with your Sports Center update. Brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. The Cardinals beat up on the Pirates last night, 4-0 in the victory. Andre Pallante with a great start. 7 innings pitched, 4 hits allowed, 0 earned runs, 1 walk, and 9 strikeouts in the game. The Cardinals will be back in action against the Pirates for Game 2 of a 4-game series tonight. 6:45 first pitch. It'll be the lefty Bailey Falter facing off against Lance Lynn for the Cardinals. Lynn, in his second start back from the injured list, is 6-4 on the season with a 3.96 ERA. Last night on Monday Night Football, a heartbreaker for the Eagles as the Falcons drive back with just under a minute and a half left to win the game 22-21. That is your Sports Center update, brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, an independent American Standard heating and air conditioning dealer.
Red corner, Average Joe Listener. And in the blue corner, the undisputed king of morning drive. Please welcome Randy Carricker.
Welcome back to the opening drive. Brooke, Dan, Randy, and Rocchio here, and it is time for the fight. And our new fighter today is Ron. Ron, how are you doing this morning?
Well, hello, Grimsy, the Grim Reaper. I'm doing just good. Hopefully I'll not embarrass myself.
I like what you said there.
Grim Reaper.
Yes, the Grim Reaper. Thank you. Thank you for that, Ron. I really appreciate it. I hope that things go well for you today, too. Is this your first time facing Randy in the fight?
No, not actually. I've faced him about 4 times, and not taken about 3 times because one was with Duncan, I think. But I tied him 4-4 twice, and then he got me on the tiebreaker. So.
Ooh. All right. We'll see how it goes today then. Are you ready for question number 1, Ron?
Let's do it.
All right, here we go. After the NHL lockout took away the 2004-2005 season, the Blues began the rebuild, trading Chris Pronger to which team for 3 players? Was it the Anaheim Ducks, Edmonton Oilers, or Carolina Hurricanes?
Oh, my gosh, that's a good question. Oh, man. He did play Edmonton in the Stanley Cup. I think they lost. Anaheim. And the other one was Carolina?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say Edmonton.
Is that your final answer, Ron?
That is my final answer, Dan.
Okay, question 2. Who is the only pitcher to throw a no-hitter in Coors Field, doing it in 1996? We'll give you a little hint here. He was a visiting pitcher. Is it Al Leiter? Let me give you the options.
Okay.
Is it Al Leiter, Dwight Gooden, or Hideo Nomo?
And what year was this?
1996.
I don't think Gooden was still going around. So it was what were the other 2?
Al Leiter and Hideo Nomo.
Oh, my gosh. Al Leiter. Let's go with the third one, Hideo Nomo.
Final answer, Ron?
Final answer.
On to question 3. Okay, on to question 3 we go.
Always trust your gut, Ron. All right, here's question 3. Following Jim Edmonds' last season as the Cardinals center fielder in 2007, who played, started, and finished the most games for the Cardinals in center field in 2008? Was it Rick Ankiel, Skip Schumacher, or Colby Rasmus?
Ooh, it wasn't Kobe. Could have been Skip. The first option was
Rick Ankiel.
Rick Ankiel. Oh, let's go with Ankiel. Throwing somebody out from the wall in Colorado.
Okay, which NBA franchise is the only one to appear in multiple NBA finals and never lose? Was it the Milwaukee Bucks, San Antonio Spurs, or the Chicago Bulls?
That appeared in the finals but never lose. I think that was Jordan and the Bulls. Final answer.
All right, Ron, let me go grab Randall.
How are you feeling,
right.
Ron?
Not great.
Not great. Well,
I just went. Yeah, I'm okay. I did the best I could. So,
what is your approach for answering the questions? Because it seems like you definitely had some memories. It's almost Randy style how you went with it there, where you went back to some memories.
Well, I'm old, so I can go back to a lot of memories.
If it works, it works, right?
Yeah, and a little tidbit. I would think I was the first winner of a trivia contest you guys had back in 2011 or 2012. It was the first NFL Bash, and Randy was they had a Jeopardy contest out at Hot Shots, and I got picked, and Randy did the question. So it was competing against not against Randy, but it was awesome. It was a lot of fun. I was like, you guys should bring that back sometime for one of the remote things you guys do, like NFL Bash.
Yeah, Randy's in here right now, and he heard all of that. Randy, say hi to Ron.
Ron, good morning. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Randy. Saw you Monday night, and I guess you guys did well yesterday in your golf tournament.
Yep, everything went great. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Awesome.
Can you bring back that event? Do you remember what he's talking about?
Yeah, the championship bash. We would have to bring that back first.
Oh,
but,
yeah.
Yeah.
And then there was like a Jeopardy, so you were Alex Trebek all day. It was pretty good.
I remember that. Yeah, it was fun.
All right, you ready for question number 1, Randy?
Ready.
All right, after the NHL lockout took away the 2004-05 season, the Blues began the rebuild, trading Chris Pronger to which team for 3 players?
They got Eric Brewer, Jeff Wywitka, and Lynch.
Doug Lynch.
Doug Lynch for Chris Pronger from the Edmonton Oilers.
Are you ready for question 2?
Ready, sir.
Who is the only pitcher to throw a no-hitter in Coors Field, doing it in 1996?
I think I'm going to go with Hideo Nomo. Hideo Nomo is the pitcher I'm going to go with.
I didn't even have to give you the hint that I gave Ron, which was he was a visiting player. Hideo Nomo is your final answer.
Final answer, sir.
All right, question number 3, Randy. Following Jim Edmonds' last season as the Cardinals center fielder in 2007, who played, started, and finished the most games for the Cardinals in center field in 2008?
They got, let's see, they traded Edmonds for Freeze. 2008. They brought up Colby in 08. And I think they had Yanye. I'll do the lifeline just in case here.
Okay. Rick Ankiel, Skip Schumacher, or Colby Rasmus?
I think I will go with Skip Schumacher.
Is that your final answer?
Yes, sir.
Question 4, which NBA franchise is the only one to appear in multiple NBA finals and never lose?
Multiple NBA finals and never lose. I'm going to say it's a relatively new franchise. I think I am going to go the Rockets were in San Diego, but I don't know I don't think they made a finals. So they win 93, 94 or 94, 95, whenever they won those two with Akeem. I'm trying to think of the Rockets going to finals and losing. And I don't recall one where they did. They may have, but I certainly don't recall it. The Seattle/Oklahoma City franchise has lost. The Blazers have lost in the finals. The Washington Bullets/Wizards, I think, lost to Seattle in one. The Clippers have never been to the finals. The Magic have lost in the finals. The Miami Heat have lost in the finals. San Antonio has lost in the finals. I'm going to go with the Rockets here. And it's simply because I don't remember. They probably have, but I'll go with the Rockets because it seems like a good choice.
Final answer?
Final answer.
Matthew, do your thing, please.
We have a winner in today's fight. Ron, who has taken on Randy a couple times. He even tied you 4-4 back in the day. Was he able to repeat that success, or does Megamind start the week with another victory? Ring that bell.
Go crazy, folks! Go crazy! The winner and new champion of the fight, Average Joe Listener.
The fight is presented by Golf Discount of St. Louis, with the most experienced club fitters in town. Why shop anywhere else?
There you go.
Congratulations, Ron. Nicely done. You heard Jack there. You got all 4 correct, and you took down Randy Carricker 4-2 in today's fight. Nicely played.
Well, if the Rockets weren't one of the options, but that was the first team that came to my mind, and when you eliminated them, I'm like, okay, so.
You were in the catbird seat at that point, Ron. Let's go through the questions and answers. After the NHL lockout took away the 04-05 season, the Blues began the rebuild, trading Chris Pronger to the Edmonton Oilers for 3 players that Randy rattled off the top of his head, including, what was the second? That starts with the W, the last name?
Jeff Waywitka.
Yeah, thank you. How the hell do you remember Waywitka 20 years later? Unbelievable. Who was the only pitcher to throw a no-hitter in Coors Field, doing it in 1996? And it was, in fact, Hideo Nomo. And to your point, Ron, Outlighter was still going and did throw a no-hitter in 1996 for the New York Yankees. The only other player to throw a no-hitter that year was, in fact, Al Leiter, who threw it against the Rockies, but they were down in Florida when he did that. Following Jim Edmonds last season as the Cardinals center field in 2007, who played, started, and finished the most games for the Cardinals in center field in 2008, it was Rick Ankiel, played about 200 more innings, about 10, 15 more games in all categories. Then Skip Schumacher at center field. And the only NBA franchise to appear in multiple NBA Finals and never lose is the Chicago Bulls, going 6-0. The Houston Rockets appeared in 1981 and 1986, falling, I believe, to the Celtics, at least in one of those finals off the top of my head. So, yes, a 4-2 win in the fight today for Ron. Ron, that means we will talk to you tomorrow on the fight. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. I'll see you tomorrow.
All right, Ron, thank you very much. Good to have you with us on 101 ESPN. As we roll on the opening drive, has this summer been a missed opportunity for City because of the Cardinals' struggles? That's coming your way on 101 ESPN.
It's time for a DraftKings at Casino Queen Redbird report on 101 ESPN.
Brooke Grimsley here for your Redbird report. Andre Pallante outdueled Paul Skenes, shutting out the Pirates for 7 innings with a career-high 9 strikeouts as the Cardinals won 4-0 in the opener of their 4-game series at Busch Stadium. Paul Skenes allowed 1 run over 6 innings before the Cardinals added 3 late insurance runs off the Pirates bullpen. Nolan Arenado hit an RBI single in the 4th to give the Cardinals the lead. Pedro Pajes added an RBI single in the 7th. Brendan Donovan had an RBI double in the 9th, and Lars Nootbaar followed with a sacrifice fly. Lance Lynn will get the start tonight in the 2nd game of the series. First pitch is at 6:45.
The Redbird Report is presented by DraftKings at Casino Queen. Play, stay, dine at DraftKings at Casino Queen.
It's a masterclass, right? The stadium is spectacular. The city loves the club. They're leading so many different metrics for MLS. The ownership group cares about the club, its fans, and cares about the city. And, I've explained to them as I've been here today, winning on the field isn't, it's not absolute, but everything in and around it, they've done great, and they'll figure it out on the field.
That's MLS Commissioner Don Garber in town for the weekend match between St. Louis City SC and Minnesota. And obviously, in the inaugural year in which they had the best record in the West, the St. Louis City SC brand was number one in the market, especially because the Cardinals were only winning 71 games. It seems like, in just being out and talking to people about sports, that the passion isn't as intense as it was last year for City SC. And I wonder if, because of the mediocrity of the Cardinals, if they missed an opportunity to really take over the town because they haven't won this season.
Oh, I think 100% that it was a huge opportunity, especially with how the Cardinals have been doing this season, where they've been a 500 team. They're back to 500, by the way. This was a huge opportunity for City SC to continue off the momentum of last year. Now, I do understand that that was a very magical way to start your inaugural season, and the way that it ended, you could tell that the magic was wearing off. But then you have, the coaching changes. You have Hackworth coming in. You have the personnel's changing a lot. This was a huge opportunity for City SC to take over, although I do see a lot of City SC fans out there.
Oh, yeah.
A ton. Even in my neighborhood, there's a ton of City SC flags, more than I see Cardinals flags anymore.
I see kids wearing more City stuff than I do the Cardinals, which is crazy to me. But I don't think you'll ever beat the Cardinals when they're winning. I just don't. And as much as I want to see City do well, they've had 29 matches. They only have 5 wins. That's a problem. A lot of ties. I think we were spoiled last year with how things went. They were winning these matches. They're winning games. And it was a new stadium, so people were excited about that. It was the new shiny tool. But I think we got spoiled. I think we got spoiled last year with City. And, it's the first go-around, and they were so good, made it to the playoffs. But I just can't see some other sport taking over the Cardinals. I just don't.
And I think last year, it's hard to expect them to do what they did last year. I am a novice, I'll admit that, in terms of soccer. And I thought they were legitimately good last year. I didn't realize that it was just serendipity that they were falling into, and that they had a lot of good things happen with players that probably weren't up to the standards of first place of a first place team. You had a lot of people that aren't even around anymore that did really good things for a team that played well, had a lot of fortuitous things happen to them. And my question is this: if they would have been able to pull it off again, or if the magic would have been reversed, would they have been better off this year? Now, they still sold out every game except for their League's Cup games. They're still very popular on TV, on Apple. And it seems as if they understand, the front office understands, that they do need to get better players. They've added better players, Matthew, if I'm not mistaken, this season than they had last season. Every move that they've made seems to have been an upgrade, right?
Yeah, so far, I mean, every part of the roster that was lacking in talent, and you kind of figured that out over the first half of this year, they've gone out there and they've acquired more talent or improved the talent that was already there. Obviously, they didn't acquire a ton more defensive talent, but so far, clearly in the games we've seen, the trade for Parker to Kessler has been a successful move and has improved the defense overall. And then obviously the offensive additions speak for themselves in the fact that they're putting up numbers. I mean, Hardell had a 3-assist game in his debut, only the second ever MLS player to do that. Cedric Toyshirt scored again. He has 10 goal contributions, and I think 9 of his first 9 appearances.
Is he fun to watch play, by the way?
Choo Choo Train? Yeah, I like him.
Cedric the Entertainer?
Yeah, Cedric the Entertainer. He's fun.
How about the wave of kids in 5 to 10 years that are, let's say, 10 years old, in that range, early, like 13, 14 years old? Where is this in 5 to 10 years? When these kids, grow up and they're growing up around City, and some of them, frankly, don't like baseball. Where is it in the landscape of sports here in St. Louis?
It will be right at the top. I think we'll have 3 very successful franchises. But as we saw with the Blues after the aforementioned Pronger trade, and as we've seen with the Cardinals this year, you better win.
It comes down to winning.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what kids will always gravitate to, is an exciting product, too. The young players. Now, I do see a lot of kids who are excited about Walker, about Wynn. I've already seen those jerseys out and about. I think with City SC, too, and the Cardinals, I'm not saying that they don't do a great job. They do a lot of work within the community, but with specifically MLS and City SC, what they're building here, where they're making sure that there's going to be homegrown talent that you could actually see transfer into that MLS level. We've already seen that with some of the young players here in town. I think buying into, wow, I can put my kid into this program and they can succeed and have the chance to actually play for an MLS team here. And soccer is one of the fastest growing sports. And going to City SC, too, for a game day experience, it's electric. The fans, the atmosphere that they build, it's so much fun to go. I will say it's a lot more expensive ticket-wise than Cardinals as of right now. Like, you could still get, $5 tickets, to go to a Cardinals game.
Tickets for $0.
Yeah, if that for $5.
I know. I mean, so it's a lot cheaper. CSC, it seems like it's harder to get a cheaper ticket, but I think there's a lot more to like the game day aspect of it too, where it's a different environment. It feels like you have to stand the entire time, especially if you're in the fan section. You are required to stand the entire time. So I think that if you're talking about younger kids, they would gravitate more towards that game day energy.
And it also needs to be said when we're talking about attendance, there has been multiple City 2. The minor league team that plays here for City. There have been multiple City 2 games that have had over 10,000 people at the games on a Sunday afternoon. So
that's amazing.
There have been minor league soccer games played in downtown St. Louis that have had more people in the stands than Cardinal baseball games this summer. So while they maybe have not jumped on the opportunity as much as possible, the fact of the matter is that statement is true, and that in and of itself is insane.
Well, and just to advance that a little bit, we have minor league football games drawing 35,000.
So, Matthew, how does that compare to other cities with City 2?
They've reset the attendance record at City 2 games like 4 times over, going back to last season and into this season. I think it's 4 times. There might have been a 5th time, but they've reset the attendance record for City 2 over and over and over again. And the one they had this past weekend on Sunday, after a bad loss, the lower bowl was packed. I mean, it was again. I think it was 10,000 easy.
I don't know, man. Because of their history, if the Cardinals win, I just don't see a sport in this town overtaking the Cardinals. You may see the growth of City, and I think you're going to see young people gravitate towards watching City and going to games, but I just don't see it happening. I mean, the Cardinals have been here forever. You got a fan base that's, pretty much diehards that go to the games, and this is the new shiny tool that you have for the city with City. I just don't see that happening.
Cardinals won their first championship in 1926. They'll have, in a couple of years, 100 years of mostly excellence and tradition, and the sport being passed down from fathers and mothers to daughters and sons, from grandfathers and grandmothers to grandsons and granddaughters. That is something that the Cardinals will have forever, is that tradition.
The only thing that would concern me is the average age of a baseball fan. Yeah. And what you're seeing with the average age of a City soccer fan. It's really young, and then all of a sudden they turn into the ones that are buying the boxes and the suites and the tickets, the advertising. I could see some of that making a dent in the Cardinals. Not a lot, but I could see it happen.
By the way, StubHub tonight, section 151, essentially right behind home plate. Row 6 seats 5, 6, and 7, $7 each.
Wow.
$7?
Yep.
And then Jeff Jones, he has this on social media where you could see that you actually had some of the concessions closed down too, which, I mean, I can't imagine, unless maybe the COVID era, that I've ever seen that happen.
No, only in the COVID era when we didn't have fans. And basically we don't have fans. So that's a problem. And that is, there is your engine for the St. Louis economy. It's amazing, but the Cardinals winning are the engine for the St. Louis economy.
No doubt. And when you're downtown and the team is winning, there's a buzz to it. There's not a buzz right now about the team. No. There's just not. And they could have another losing season back-to-back for the first time in the franchise history since the 1950s. I mean, there's just not a buzz right now about the team.
And I know people say, they don't care about winning. They do care about having customers at Ballpark Village.
100%.
And you don't have customers at Ballpark Village unless you have a winning program that's bringing people into the ballpark.
By the way, 314, we had cardboard fans. Yeah, we did.
I was one of them.
So you didn't need a concession stand whatsoever.
You're right in the front row.
Yeah.
Yes, you were.
Nice.
Those
Do
were
you
the
still
days.
have that?
Somewhere. It's around, yeah. So I've got a photo.
Yeah, I got to figure out.
Michelle and I being in the front row.
That's amazing. That was such a weird time to even go back and think about.
Yeah. That's what we need now is cardboard fans.
No.
Or, well,
At least they would fill seats.
Yeah, they would.
Yeah.
The Rush Hour Reset coming your way next on 101 ESPN. Hoffman Brothers is hiring at HoffmanBros.com. And at Hoffman Brothers, their employees are at the heart of everything they do. And it's not just about showing up for work each day. It's about having a clear purpose. And the mission of Hoffman Brothers is to improve the life in every home. But what does that really mean? At Hoffman Brothers, they aim to enhance the lives of us, their customers, by being reliable, professional, and personable in every interaction. They're committed to showing up on time, prepared, and ready to provide solutions that fit our needs. They strive to fix problems right the first time, so customers don't have to worry about them again. Customers of Hoffman Brothers are the reason they do what they do every day. And I'm a proud Hoffman Brothers customer. We get so much work done by Hoffman Brothers, whether it is heating, plumbing, electrical, air conditioning. We're part of their home protection plan, and we're thrilled to be partners with Hoffman Brothers. They are an independent American Standard heating and air conditioning dealer. If you want to work with a great company that does things right, give them a call, 314-664-3011, or go to Hoffman Bros, HOFFMANN, HoffmanBros.com.
Sports stories of the day on the opening drive with a Rush Hour Reset.
After a brilliant performance by Andre Pallante last night, and the Cardinals did not have to use Ryan Helsley, by the way. Scoring runs in the 8th inning helped as the Cardinals win 4-0 over the Buccos. Cardinals will play a 6:45 game tonight at the ballpark. They'll send Lance Lynn to the mound against Bailey Falter, and the Redbirds will try to get over 500 again as they try to head down the stretch here. Their final dozen games of the year, 6 more home games, and they'll try to get to 500 and be over 500 by the time all is said and done.
The battle to be above 500 for the rest of the season, which is 12 games remaining. I don't know. Where do you guys feel like they will finish? Does it even matter, really, at this point, though, if they finish above or below 500?
I think optically, because they'll be able to say that they finished at 500 or better every year since 58, 59. If you have a losing record for the first time since 58, 59, that's 65 years. I think that's something that the negative people can hang their hat on.
Yeah, the optics look better. Let's just face it. I mean, they do, and we'll be talking about it in the offseason, saying, well, they did finish above 500. I look at them as a 500 team. I thought they're going to be 500 going into the season. Fangraphs had them right at 84 wins, which they may finish a couple games above, maybe 3 games above. So that's where I look at that. Cardinals officially eliminated from the Central Division last night. Paul Skenes has lost 3 times, twice to the Cardinals, and he made a mistake on 3-0 to Nolan Arenado, who's swinging away. You give him the green light. He drives in a run, and that's all the Cardinals needed. Paul Skenes, in 21 big league starts, has 29 earned runs. That's it. He has struck out 84. In the games that they lost, he has an ERA of 2.45 with 81 strikeouts. So sometimes you need a little offense to help you out, and the Pirates didn't get that last night. So credit Andre Pallante, who, in my mind, has supplanted himself in the starting rotation for next year, going into spring training.
And what a surprise that it's been for Andre Pallante, because we talked about that earlier in the show, is that I was not expecting, when they were stretching Andre Pallante out, for this to work out in any way where we'd be having this conversation in September saying that Andre Pallante would be a part of the starting rotation moving forward, and there would be no questions asked. But with what he's been able to do, Andre Pallante deserves to be in the starting rotation, and you at least have that piece of the puzzle for next year. Now, also, I think another pleasant surprise this season has been your bullpen with Ryan Fernandez. I think that's another guy that you could look at where you're looking at the bullpen for next season. He's a piece that you keep for. Remember when Ollie didn't use him for a while, we're like, when are we going to see this guy? And it took a little bit, but now we're at this point where you trust him in that situation where him and Andrew Kittredge were able to combine to keep that shutout going against the Pirates. And Paul Skenes is Paul Skenes. He is super talented, but for Andre Pallante to outduel him last night, when you know that you have a lot of eyes nationally watching, career high 9 strikeouts from Andre Pallante. He continues to progress.
Yeah, I think he's kind of reinvented himself because he had to get right-handed batters out, and that was his nemesis, if you will, reverse splits, trying to find a way to get right-handers out. Now he's using that sinker. It's down in the zone, gets ground balls, gets a lot of strikeouts, as you mentioned last night. He's kind of reinvented himself, so give him a ton of credit.
The Cardinals are going to honor the greatest show on turf on Saturday. At Saturday's game, you're going to have a lot of people in town, including Isaac Bruce, Marshall Falk, Torrey Holt, Mike Jones, Mike Martz, Ricky Prohl. They'll all be honored before the game, and you'll have the opportunity to get an autograph from Isaac or Marshall or Torrey to benefit the Isaac Bruce Foundation. All you need to do is go to cardinals.com/greatest show on turf. They're also going to have a Q&A with Mike Martz, Mike Jones, and Ricky Prohl at 4:30 on Saturday. So probably your last opportunity to celebrate that championship Rams club. I can't imagine that there's going to be many more anniversaries, 30, 35, 40, 45, because we just don't have the team. So if you liked that team and you want to celebrate them, and Isaac's Gala on Friday night is sold out, this is probably going to be your last opportunity to clap for the greatest show on turf.
Are you going?
I will be there on Saturday. Yes,
nice.
Sir.
Okay, good.
Wouldn't miss it. And, a great group of guys. And, oh, by the way, Blues training camp starts on Thursday. They'll have their first game, and we'll be there on Thursday for their first day of training camp over at Centene Center. Blues will play the Stars on Saturday, pregame at 5 here on 101 ESPN, and then they'll play Utah on Sunday, and the pregame is at 5. And Friday night, you can join 101 ESPN for Blues and Brews at the brewery. Get fired up for the Blues season. It's an outdoor street party featuring live music from country music star Matt Steele and from the Charles Glenn Band. Appearances by Shenner, Nabes, Bucci, Banny, and other Blues players. Tickets on sale now. Blues and Brews, refreshed by Bud Light and 101 ESPN. Find all the details now at 101ESPN.com. Hope to see you there Friday. That's another place I'll be, at Blues and Brews Friday for the celebration of the opening of the 2024-2025 Stanley Cup Championship Blues season.
It kills me that they have Thursday training camp and a game on Saturday.
It's incredible, isn't it?
I mean, spring training takes forever, and they don't play games, and now the Blues open up on a Saturday after 2 days of training.
It's fantastic.
I love it.
Yeah.
Dan, did you hear what he snuck in there?
I don't know, a bunch of nicknames.
Oh, I know. It's okay.
We're going to celebrate the opening of the 2024 Stanley Cup champion Blues season.
Okay. He always tries to sneak that in there. He always. You have to like.
I'm not negative.
I know. You're already putting that out there into the universe.
Yeah.
I'm good with it.
He promises, Sonny.
Yeah.
Is it a playoff team? It's got to be a playoff team, huh?
If you're going to win the Stanley Cup.
Yep. Better get in the playoffs.
You have to. Yeah.
Coming up next year on 101 ESPN, we're talking about players to watch during the Blues preseason, but could Alexei Toropchenko be a guy that is more on the hot seat than we thought? That's next on 101 ESPN.
Hey everyone, it's Brooke here for Universal Windows Direct. Football season is here, and you know what that means. Fall is just around the corner, and with cooler temperatures on the way, it's time to make sure that your home is ready to go. If you've been dealing with drafty windows all summer long, struggling on those crazy hot days, your AC working overtime, now is the perfect time to upgrade with Universal Windows Direct before the cold weather starts to kick in. Their windows feature super spacer technology, which makes the windows perform better, last longer, and helps keep your home more comfortable no matter the season. season. Plus, Universal Windows Direct backs it all up with a true lifetime warranty as long as you own the home and a 20-year warranty to the next homeowner. Schedule your free in-home estimate today, and for every 2 windows you buy, get the next 2 for free. Plus 0% financing for 60 months. That's 5 years. Restrictions apply. Mention my name and get an additional $250 off your next project. So go to UWD.com. That's UWD.com. They are a proud partner of the St. Louis Cardinals, and like me, you'll be saying, I love my windows.
Toropchenko's going to make this team. Okay, I don't see anything happening in training camp where somebody's going to force Toropchenko on waivers or in the minors, okay? But the reason that I say he can't get too comfortable is this is a guy that should be easily a third-line player, you know, getting 15 minutes of ice time every single game. Could sometimes knock on the door depending on how the game's going and what they need as a second-line guy, right? But in all honesty, with the depth of this roster and, say, the addition of Holloway, for example, he could be in a fourth-line role, and if he's not consistent, he could get scratched, right?
That's the voice of the Blues, Chris Kerber, yesterday here on 101 ESPN. And the question is there a player or two that we should be looking at that we might think is invulnerable, but might be a little bit vulnerable? And like Kerb said, Toropchenko is going to be here. Toropchenko also has the ability to be a top 6 guy. Probably not. He's probably more of a bottom 6 guy, but has the size and the speed and the tenacity to be a guy that could play in your top 6. The X factor here is going to be Dvorsky, because, as we mentioned, if Dvorsky makes the team, he's got to be a top 6 guy, doesn't he? His skill set lends itself to being a top 6 player, which would push other people down, perhaps number 13.
Yeah, I think that the big question here is, who are your centers for the season going in? I'm sure that the Blues will mix and match. That's something that will be changing a lot this season. And to your point, I think Dalibor Dvorsky is a big question mark there. Now, say that he does have a stellar training camp. It sounds like they're not putting too much pressure on him to make it right out of the gate with this team, but eventually does join the Blues. Then I think they would take the Robert Thomas route of where he starts out on the wing, then you start to move him over where he is your center. But who do you guys have as your centers for the season?
Thomas, Booch, Foxa, Texier.
Mark Teixeira.
I've already got, yeah. Teixeira.
Yeah.
I've already got my lines.
Okay.
You
what
ready?
Do you have?
I got Neighbors, Thomas, Kyrou. I got Bolduc, Buchnevich, Holloway. I've got Saad, Foxa, and Shen. And then, as Chris mentioned, maybe the fourth line would be Toropchenko, Texier, and Joseph. Those are my guys, and then Sundqvist waiting for him to get healthy, and then that changes things. Things will change throughout the season, but those are my lines on opening night, which probably are wrong.
Who's your second line center?
Buchnevich.
Oh, okay. Yeah. How do you guys feel about Buchnevich being your second line center?
I was better with him in the last 10 games last year. Once he decided he was willing to do it, than I had been before that. I kind of think that when they re-signed him, that was with the thought that he would wind up being a center. So I'm the same way, although I have Schenner on left wing on that top line. And I think an interesting part of this is going to be how Dvorsky fits in. Who did you have as your second line wingers, Daniel?
I had Bolduc, Buchnevich, and Holloway.
Okay, see, I've got Nabes on my second line.
I could see that.
I have Saad on mine and Shen as my wingers and Vucinovic as my center. Now, that could change a lot. I like Jake Neighbors on the top line with Robert Thomas and Jordan Kyrou, but at the same time, we've seen where they kind of mix and match throughout the season where you move Shen up with those two. But I think that Bolduc is a really interesting one that you have there, Dan. What's the thought process behind that?
Oh, I'm just taking guesses. Pretty much.
He's got skill, though. He showed skill.
And Vucinovic being at center, that's why I'd move up Bolduc to my wing.
Now, one guy that'll probably be here is Matthew Joseph. And he'll probably wind up being either a fourth-line guy or a reserve. You still have Nathan Walker. Nadub is available for you on the fourth line. I think Holloway is a third-line player. I would say Fox, Assad, and Holloway. Holloway's probably a bottom six at this point. Might wind up being at some point a 20-goal scorer. And then with Joseph, I'm with you with Texier as the fourth line center, and then I do think Nathan Walker brings a lot to the table until Sundqvist is back, and then that changes up the fourth line.
Okay, defensively, very quickly, Broberg and Parayko. I like Leddy and Falk. I like Suter, Kessel, and I can rearrange the final pairing as I go.
Let's see how Perunovic does in camp, too.
He'd be on my fourth.
Yeah.
On the forwards, really quickly, though, we got a text, 314. This is going to be the big question last year. It's going to be the big question going into this year. Have you changed your minds? Where are you guys? Are you splitting up Kyrou and Thomas? Are you keeping them together? This texter says it is a chance that Kyrou and Thomas will not be on the same line.
I would think that's a possibility, although I would start the season with those two together.
Yeah, got to get Kyrou off to a fast start. And if he does with Thomas, then I keep him there.
Yeah.
That's the way I would approach it.
Yeah, you've got your disher and your sniper.
There you go.
Kyrou just has to shoot the puck. He didn't remember early in the season last year we were waiting for Jordan to shoot the puck. And it's kind of weird to say this about a young player. Two things about him. Number one, and I think his effort did increase last year. I thought he was a much better player as the season unfolded. But he needs to be selfish. He needs to become a goal scorer. And sometimes he didn't do that last year.
Well, and we saw Robert Thomas actually evolve into more of a goal scorer where he was actually shooting the puck more. So it felt like you kind of had a decrease there. Now, I do think that somebody brought this up on the text line, too, from the 636, Vucinovic on the top line with Robert Thomas and Kyrou. I didn't hate when that happened. It's just that it feels like they need a second-line center.
Yeah, and I don't think Shen is just that guy anymore.
No.
Mm-mm. Shen would be on my third line.
Yep. And maybe if Dvorsky really shows himself, and they love Dvorsky, maybe he winds up being a number two center, although I would be reluctant, and I think they would be reluctant to have a teenager as your second line center.
All this depth, and we heard Curbs referred there specifically to Toropchenko, to the point where he could be a second line guy in one games, or he could get to the point where he's scratched. So does all this depth give you confidence in the Blues, or are you taking a more negative glass half empty look at it and saying you have all this depth fighting for spots because after like 5 forwards everything gets muddled for the next 10 guys?
Here's why I really like what they have. I think Thomas has room to improve. I think Kyrou has room to improve. I think Shen is what he is. I think he's probably maxed out. Dvorsky has room to improve, especially as a center. Vucinovic has room to improve. Neighbors has room to improve. I think Saad probably is what he is. Fox probably is. Holloway could improve. Joseph could improve. Toropchenko can improve. Texier can improve. And you probably have gotten the most that you're going to get out of a guy like Nathan Walker. So most of your forwards can get better. There is room for improvement. A lot of times, like, for example, the 2019 team, you did have some youth, but you had a lot of players that already were what they were going to be. I think this Blues edition up front has more players with upside than we've seen in a long time.
Yeah, that 2019 team also had a lot of grit, especially on their fourth line and their third line. Your bottom six, they had a lot of grit.
That was a championship team.
It was. And so I know that they're trying to maybe get back to that. I see kind of like a young group. I see a lot of competition. I don't think that that's a bad thing. We know that this is a team still in transition where you have a lot of guys who maybe aren't exactly in their prime yet. Doug Armstrong really stuck to his word of making sure to get guys that are kind of in that under 30 age range. Now, I know you still have a lot of veterans on this team too, but I think also too I'm interested to see defensively how this team looks. When you have Broberg coming in, would you put him with Falk? Would you put him with Parayko? I would say more likely Falk, because Nicoletti seems to do pretty well with Colton Parayko, but do you see any changes defensively with this group, too, with their pairings?
I've got it mixed up. I got Broberg and Parayko. I got Letty Falk. I got Suter, Kessel. So that's something that I would do. But that doesn't mean it's going to happen, obviously. I have no say in this, and no one agrees with me on Buchnevich being a center. I got him as a second-line center, and no one agrees.
Well, Drew Bannister agrees with you.
Yeah.
He told us that he plans to use him as center.
So I'll go with him.
Yeah, so he's probably got a little bit of sway in the matter, as a matter of fact.
I would think so. And hopefully he does.
Yeah. Well, yeah, hopefully he's not like the Dave Canales in Carolina. The other thing is Broberg, just because of the physical characteristics, he's been comped to Jay Bouwmeester. He doesn't have that defensive skill set yet that Bo had towards the end of his career. But the only reason that I would be inclined to not play Broberg with Parayko, and by the way, I would, but if I was trying to look for a reason to not play him, it's because of Letty's experience with Parayko. And Broberg, if you could put him with a Falk, then he gets the advantage of playing with a more veteran guy. Because Broberg has not played much regular season hockey in the NHL.
And think about how those two could skate as a combination. Mm-hmm. That's something that stands out to me when I talk about Broberg and Parayko. So looking forward to it. Gets going on Thursday, and I can't wait to watch it. I'm excited about the Blue season. After the moves that they've made, when you thought it might be a quiet offseason, this seems to be a lot of fun. And we're talking about it here in early September, but it seems like it'll be a training camp that has a lot of competition, which makes it fun for fans. I can't wait.
One other question to you guys. I thought that Matthew Kessel, ascended to a point last year.
You know how much I talked about him all. I love him.
And Justin Falk apparently wasn't healthy. But if Justin Falk is the same as he was last year, and Kessel is the same as he was last year, isn't Kessel your number 2 right-handed defenseman?
Could be.
Yeah.
But I'm also a big fan of Justin Falk, and I'm in the minority with that.
No, I am too. I don't think he was healthy. He needs to be better than he was last year.
100%.
I think that's a big part of it. And Dan, also to your other point, too, about just the excitement going into the year, look at how quickly things have changed because of the way that Doug Armstrong approached this offseason. He was very transparent. He really kind of foreshadowed everything that happened without fully putting it out there of what he was able to do. And I think a lot of fans, just talking to people, are really excited about the Blues, despite them missing the playoffs 2 years in a row because of how aggressive and relentless and ruthless that Doug Armstrong has been this offseason.
Yeah, I think it gives you a little leeway with the fans. You know, you think about missing the playoffs for 3 consecutive years. People aren't talking about that. People are excited over the fact that they've made these moves. And I think when you're honest with the fan base, you get a little leeway. And that's something that I think he's bought as they move forward.
That's Dan. That's Brooke. I'm Randy. Coming up here on 101 ESPN, Luther Burden is not happy with the fact that the Tiger football program is being dissed. That's next on 101 ESPN. So it's time to sell your home. You need to hear this first. A guy in St. Louis, Tim, and his family decided Gloria Lou was the agent for them, and things were going smoothly until the buyer failed to get their loan approved. You know what Gloria did? She bought their house at the same price the buyer was willing to pay, so Tim and his family could still close on their original date. Folks, let me tell you, your typical agent won't do that, but Gloria Lou will. That's right. She will buy your home at your agreed-to price, and that's guaranteed in writing if it doesn't sell. Her name is her promise and says it all. Your home sold, guaranteed realty. Gloria's mastered the home selling promise by guaranteeing upfront and in writing to sell your home at your agreed-to price and time frame, or she'll buy it herself. Pretty cool. You can give her a call at 314-325-6888, 314-325-688, or find her on the web at gloriahasthebuyers.com. Gloria's going to do a great job of selling your home when you want it sold, within the time frame that you want it sold, and for the most money. That is what you're looking for when you choose a real estate agent. And Gloria is the best. Learn more at gloriahasthebuyers.com. Give her a call now, 314-325-6888.
Hey everyone, it's Brooke here, and I want to tell you why I love the Missouri Athletic Club. It's because it really feels like I have joined a community. I love going to the downtown location and west location. At the downtown location, they host so many wonderful events, like Randy Carricker going into the St. Louis Sports Hall of Fame. It was such a wonderful evening. And then I love going to the west location, playing some pickleball, some tennis, and working out over there and picking up some lunch like a buffalo chicken wrap. They always provide such a wonderful experience, and that's why I love my MAC.
This is Rocc with your Sports Center update, driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. Cardinals coming off a 4-0 win over the Pirates yesterday. They will look for win number 2 tonight. 6:45 first pitch will be the lefty Bailey Falter facing off against Lance Lynn for the Cardinals. Falter on the season is 8-7 with a 4.20 ERA. And last night in Monday Night Football, wrapping up Week 2 in the NFL, the Falcons with a come-behind victory over the Philadelphia Eagles late in the game. The Eagles were leading 21-16 with 1:39 to play before Kirk Cousins and the Falcons marched down the field to win that one 22-21. That is your Sports Center update, driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. See them at londoff.com. Chevy, together we drive. Are you kidding me?
Kind of, to me, it's disrespect to, not have us like on the big stage with the big, TV cameras and stuff. So I took that personal, and I'm pretty sure everybody else in that locker room took it personal. So we ain't going nowhere, so we here to stay.
I love an angry Luther Bird.
I do, yeah. It's always great to see. I mean, he's right. Mizzou is, of course, ranked nationally. They're 7th in the country, right behind Tennessee that leapfrogged them, which we discussed that yesterday, despite, you know what, they were able to do this past weekend, which was beating a ranked Boston College team. And that was a very close game. But I think that Mizzou still, even though they're being ranked nationally, is still not getting a lot of the deserved attention.
They aren't on national TV again. They're on SEC Network this weekend against Vanderbilt. And I guess he wants an ABC or a main ESPN game, huh?
I would imagine, but are you going to not? Well, let me ask you this. You're going to leapfrog Texas, Alabama, Tennessee, Georgia, Ole Miss? Probably not.
Probably not.
So that's why it bumps you down. According to ESPN Analytics, the SEC has a 60% chance of getting 5 or more teams into the college football playoff. So I think you get respect by playing in the SEC. It's just, I don't think you're going to leapfrog some of the teams that are ahead of them at this point. Now, when you look at what they've done in their passing efficiency and defensive passing efficiency, offensive efficiency, it's been pretty good. I guess they're not getting the respect that they deserve. If I was looking at this and saying where are they at just in general, in the last 3 quarters Saturday, they allowed BC 1 yard rushing on 13 carries. 1 yard rushing. That was it. And so, I don't know. Maybe they're not getting the respect that they deserve, but it's going to be really tough to leapfrog some of these teams we're talking about in the SEC.
Especially Texas with them taking over the #1 spot in the rankings. Obviously, that was a very close game. I don't know if you were able to see that this past weekend with Georgia and Kentucky. I was surprised with how close that game was. But Texas, now that you have Arch Manning doing what he's able to do, I didn't know the Mannings could run like that.
No, they never have been able to. This
had to
is
get
the
it from
first
somebody
one.
else. They've evolved.
Only one branch. Arch, Cooper, Arch. Every other branch of theirs is horizontally, disparaged and held back. But no, Arch to Cooper to Arch is apparently one branch that gets all the speed.
I have no problem with the way that the networks have treated Mizzou so far. They haven't earned it. Texas was in the Final Four last year. Alabama is a national brand. Georgia has won multiple national championships. It is what it is.
Yeah, you get bumped down.
Yep. You want to be on national TV, on the big networks. You want the big TV cameras there. Play in the playoff.
I'd also say play a better schedule. Now, Mizzou did play BC, ranked top 25, but I think as you move along with the schedule and you get into SEC play, I think that changes with the networks and putting them on some of the big stages.
I think that that's a really good point because the schedule we know with Mizzou, there's really no room for error when it comes to they should win the games that they should, and they really can't lose any other than maybe Alabama. But outside of that, it feels like you have to win all those other games because of how easy, especially their SEC slate is. They don't have to face Georgia this year. They're not facing Texas. They do have to face Oklahoma, which, I mean, we've seen that there's some holes with Oklahoma so far. Defensively, they're fantastic, but offensively, they're still struggling to find any sort of rhythm. So it feels like with Mizzou, because of the way that they have set up their schedule, and you have some cupcakes that they faced early on the season, they were able to shut them out. But at the same time, because of their schedule, the margin for error is really thin for them when it comes to their wins and losses.
So this week, a 3:15 game for the Tigers. And then after a bye week on the 28th, they'll play A&M. And that's an 11 in the morning game. That'll probably be big ESPN or ABC because A&M is also ranked. And then the UMass game, you're not going to be on national TV with the big cameras there. Then you get Auburn at home and go to Alabama. Alabama will probably be a game that if Mizzou walks into that one undefeated, everybody in the nation will see.
That's a college game day type game in my mind. And I'll go back to it. Texas is #1, Alabama 2, Tennessee 4, Georgia 5, Ole Miss is 6. I mean, you start looking at the big teams in the SEC, they're going to get the first crack at them on some of these major networks.
Yeah, so that's fine. And I am glad that Luther Burden said, yeah, we aren't going anywhere.
Yeah.
That's fun to hear.
And he's right.
Yeah.
With the schedule the way it plays out, should win at Texas A&M, sets up to be undefeated going into Alabama.
Coming up, we've got rock and roll, plus we're giving away tickets for the Cardinals on Saturday, the greatest show on turf celebration. That's coming your way on the opening drive on 101 ESPN. Hey, if the Cardinals hit a home run tonight, you can go to Schnucks tomorrow and get a free donut. How, Randy, you ask? Well, you need to download the Schnucks Rewards app, and they've got this Dingers for Donuts campaign where if the Cardinals hit a home run and you have the Schnucks Rewards app, you go in the next morning, get that free donut coupon, and you get a free donut when you go to Schnucks. And as we go through the fall, maybe you're going to get together with everybody and have a little Mizzou party. Maybe you're going to tailgate on Saturday for Mizzou. Get all your tailgate needs at Schnucks. And when you go, whether you're getting your brats or your burgers or your buns or your cookies, whatever you need for your tailgate, you use the Schnucks Rewards app and you get 2% back on everything that you buy at Schnucks. And there are special coupons. It's personalized for you. Some days you'll get 4% back on everything that you spend. So you spend $100 and you wind up getting $4 back in return. That's a pretty cool deal from Schnucks and the Schnucks Rewards app. Whether it's dinner tonight, tailgating Saturday, or a special occasion coming up, make sure that you do all of your grocery shopping with the Schnucks Rewards app at Schnucks.
I want to rock! And roll.
Let's rock. Let's rock today.
On Friday night, the Isaac Bruce Foundation will have their sold-out gala over at Live by Lowe's, and that's on Friday night. Then on Saturday night, the Cardinals are going to honor the greatest show on turf, and the opening drive has your shot to score a pair of tickets to this Saturday's Cardinals game against the Guardians, and it features a special hat giveaway celebrating the 25th anniversary of the Super Bowl champion Greatest Show on Turf. Get all the details for Saturday's special Greatest Show on Turf theme night at cardinals.com/theme. And you can text in right now, 314-399-9646, 314-399-YO-HO, for your chance to win free tickets to Saturday's Cardinals game honoring the Greatest Show on Turf. All right, Matthew, you've got a question for us. What is it?
Yes, this is going to be another Rams question, obviously, for 1999, and we're going to stick on the defense, because everyone knows all the offense, but the defense does not give the credit it deserves, and this trivia question is one example. The 1999 St. Louis Rams had 8 defensive touchdowns, which is just a wild number when you think about how good their offense was. They also had 3 other non-offensive touchdowns with kick returns from Ozzie Hakeem and Horn. So my question to you is, out of those 8 defensive touchdowns, which St. Louis Rams defender had 3 of them? Out of those 8 defensive touchdowns for the 1999 St. Louis Rams defense, which St. Louis Rams defender had 3 of those touchdowns?
I don't know.
Ooh. What do you think, Randy? Maybe a player that should be in the Hall of Fame?
No.
Okay.
Wow. And that's the only hint you're going to get.
Okay.
It's the only hint you're going to get, guys. You make it too easy. Dan likes to make it easy for the people out there. I don't know why.
Was that right?
No.
Oh. Okay.
That's what I'm saying. It's the one hint they're going to get. But I'm proud of you for getting better at not yelling out the answer.
What do you got
He
for
hasn't
us?
done that in a while.
Yeah.
London Fletcher.
Fletch.
I don't actually think Fletcher had a interception or a fumble recovery. I don't know if he was on the other end of a turnover in that season. I can find it out, though.
Thought he had a fumble recovery.
London Fletcher. I do not have him down for a fumble recovery.
Wow,
I do
how
not
about
have
that?
London Fletcher forcing any turnovers himself personally for the 1999 St. Louis Rams.
Man.
Sorry, that one is a little bit of a miss there, Danny Mac.
All right. So what do you got for rock and roll, sir?
I wanted to throw something out that Brooke actually texted to the group chat yesterday, which was a snapshot of a picture from Roman Berkey, who posted this on Instagram. The Roman Berkey, obviously the captain of St. Louis City and the goaltender. Thanks for the amazing support, St. Louis City fans. We let you down multiple times this season, but you showed up every home game. You deserve better. And then a little heart symbol. And for a disappointing season, considering how angry Roman Berkey has looked the entire year, and that's just kind of his style out there. If you listen to his interviews, he's very different being interviewed than he is on the field, where he tears apart his defenders every time they make the slightest bit of a mistake. I think you heard from Don. We heard from Don Garber earlier in the show. The wins haven't been there this year. The outreach has been great, and Roman Berkey and players like that. And we didn't play it here, but Klaus last week, as he was returning, was asked about returning in front of the St. Louis City fan base and gave a glowing response to the fan base about how welcomed he's feel here, about how he feels like he's at home. He appreciates the fact that he's one of the original players, and he'll always appreciate that connection to St. Louis. I do think it's impressive that we have players who can choose anywhere in the world. They end up here in St. Louis, and they actually do kind of say some of the things that we as St. Louisans probably say a little bit too flippantly just to pump our own tires up. But then you get somebody who comes out of nowhere from Germany, who could have stayed in Germany, played for the biggest clubs there, lived around a hometown that they've known for their entire life. They come here, and they actually have kind words like that. Again, pumping a little bit of tires here, but I got no problem doing it because at least it's not me actually doing it for once. The fact that the players come in here and love it the way they do, the soccer has just been another example. I know that the Blues have been an example of that for 50 years of guys coming out of nowhere and wanting to live here. Soccer is just another great example. I like that St. Louis is still winning in that department, and because we're not doing great in other ones.
I'm in. Yeah, I like to hear that from a player.
Me too.
I like how intense that Berkey is. I like that he really, as you're talking about, Rocc, encapsulates like the energy that you hear from the fan base. People want to see that passion. They want to see that you're trying, that you're upset. Now, I think that he also shows a lot of that on the field, too, to your point of what you're talking about, how he interacts with the defenders. But I think that people really like it, and he's open and honest, too, in his comments.
I don't think you can begrudge any athlete for getting as much as they can, and maybe they have to move on outside of St. Louis. And how long is he, Matthew, under his deal to stay in town?
I believe he has one more year on his deal. God, I should have had that off the top of my head.
So that would make him stay for a while?
He's through 2025.
Okay, so next year.
Yeah, I was right. Okay.
I think that's great.
You'd think he'd be here next year. Again, I think people are already kind of doom and gloom because it's been a bad season. I've seen people already questioning the ownership group, the amount of money that's been put into. I don't get what City fans are doing right now, if I'm being 100% honest, because the reaction I'm getting after games is just I don't understand what's happening. Everyone says you have to fire John Hackworth. It was a huge mistake to bring him in. This organization doesn't care. It's just there's no perspective in the fan base right now, which is really odd to me, because I feel like when you hit the ground running the way you do, they should have given you some goodwill, but instead all it did was jack up the expectations and make it so now that every decision they make is the wrong decision because it's not leading directly to the same amount of win totals last year. I've been really confused by the reaction from City fans, despite the fact that it's been a down year.
Can I go back to the question?
Yeah, you can.
Okay. What is the answer? Because we've given away the tickets. So who is the defensive player that you asked about?
Mike Jones.
Was it really?
Mike Jones had 4 interceptions that season. He took 2 of them back for picks. He also had the 1 fumble return for a touchdown for the St. Louis Rams in that game. The other defensive touchdowns, Grant Wistrop, the defensive end who weighed 280 pounds.
About 265.
265. He had 2 interceptions for 131 return yards, and both of them he took back for touchdowns.
He can fly.
Todd Light picked one off. Dre Bly, Devin Bush Sr. all returned touchdowns for the Rams, but Mike Jones took 3 home for the Rams as defensive touchdowns, which, again, it jumped out to me because we talk about 2000 Ravens, great defense, won them a Super Bowl. 2002 Buccaneers, great defense that won them a Super Bowl. Heck, even the Steelers ones that came around. Off the top of my head, I think only the Ravens had 8 defensive touchdowns. Bucks had 6, I think. Steelers, in that first year they won against the Seahawks, had 5 or 6 in the regular season, I want to say. So just the fact that you put up 8 defensive touchdowns, 11 non-offensive touchdowns, while also having the offense you had, we got to take it or leave it earlier, which is the greatest show on turf 1999, the greatest single season of any St. Louis sports team ever. Ooh. With those numbers, considering how great the offense was and the fact that they were setting records, it's hard for me to, like, the top 3 at least.
I would have gone with Dre Bly after my London Fletcher answer. Dre Bly wouldn't have been bad, right?
No, it would have been a good call.
Okay. Does this surprise you to go with the answer here?
No, I answered it.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, he asked me during the break.
Oh, I stepped out of the break to warm up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been pretty chilly in here. Can I go back to soccer? We're jumping all over the place with this. Just real quick. This is all over the place.
That's kind of what I want the segment to be. I like it.
So I think another point, too, with kind of the expectations is it's so rare that you have an MLS team set up in the way that City SC was, where you already had a stadium ready to go, where you already had facilities ready to go. So many of the other expansion teams had to wait years before they were able to get their facilities. They're usually playing at other stadiums.
That's a great
and
point.
I mean, I remember with Nashville when they got their soccer team, I think it wasn't until recently they finally got their own stadium.
Yeah.
And they've had one for a while. They've been an expansion team for a while, and they've had to play, in other locations. And I think that that's another big part of this is that you have that stadium that was ready to go for you. I think that sometimes maybe people forget about that aspect of it too, that it is so rare to have an ownership willing to put up that money up front to go ahead and have that ready to go for the players so that you could go out and get a Berkey and such.
Right. Yeah.
By the way,
thank you, pandemic.
NFL news. CBS announced that Sunday's Bengals-Chiefs game drew an average of 27.8 million viewers, making it their most watched September game since 1998. That's 26 years ago.
Wow.
That's enormous. That is a huge rating.
Yeah.
And if you look back at week 2, this is why the league is doing what they do. I mean, Raiders upset Baltimore, Bucs surprise Detroit, Saints dominate Dallas, Falcons stun Philly last night, Vikings beat San Francisco, Cardinals destroyed the Rams. I mean, you start thinking about week 2 and some of the underdogs that pulled out wins. It's unpredictable. That's what makes the NFL fun.
And this week in the 325 window, you've got the Ravens and Cowboys. So that'll be another one that draws a lot of eyes.
You know what I think what we need to do now on Thursday morning is we need to have a segment, and it's called like Dan's Friends Sheets, or Dan's Friends set out our NFL bets for us this weekend. So we just get all of the betting slips from Dan's friends, and we kind of lay out a little segment to tell us how we should look at the NFL bets coming up in the weekend.
There's a lot of friends.
I'm just saying, get them all together. We just got to pile. It's a lot of information to get together, but it'll be useful for the listeners. Dan.
There's a lot.
By the way, one of those Rams defenders will be with us on the opening drive on Thursday as we continue our 25-year look back at the greatest show on turf. Kevin Carter, now with CBS, will be the guest for the Rams segment on Thursday.
Did you ask him when Dick Vermeil said, "You don't want to get in there"?
I didn't ask him about that.
Just, you stayed away from that.
He's heard it. No, we didn't have time for it.
Yeah.
You're coming out of the Super Bowl with 26 seconds left. Great. No, he would have been. Kevin's one of the nicest people ever.
1985 Bears, 5 defensive touchdowns.
How about that?
There you go.
Pretty good.
Yeah, really good. Great job by our producer, audio, video engineer, the one, the only Matthew Rocc. Thank you, sir.
Thanks for letting me nerd out about football.
You got it. Brooke, do we have any other audio engineers in the house?
We have a video engineer in the house, Randy Carricker, getting the bump in the job title today because I was struggling with technology for whatever reason. Somebody I thought had said that this computer wasn't working and they were working on it. I don't know. I misheard it in my brain. And so then this morning I come in and it was still turned off. And I was like, Randy, can you please help me? And you turned the computer back on.
I wouldn't push the button.
Yeah.
I became a video engineer by pushing the on button for a computer.
Technological genius over there.
Yeah, I mean, you figured it out. I could not, so I'm slightly embarrassed about that. I also have one final statement before we go. Everybody has played cupcakes. There's nothing wrong with cupcakes.
No,
Cupcakes are delicious. They
Yeah.
are. Just saying that for all the SEC teams. Go look at all the other schedules. Everybody's played a cupcake. It's what you do. Resume builders, if you will.
Yes. Did you have fun today?
I did.
Good. Daniel, you were awesome.
Oh, no. Randall, you're the best.
Hey, we thank you for tuning in, texting in, and being a part of the show. We've got a balloon party with T-Mac and Ajax coming up. By the way, 26 and 27. T-Mac is off, so we will stick around here and fill in for T-Mac and Ajax here
What
on the
about a
opening
producer
day.
party?
Yeah,
Yeah.
So,
likely.
Right.
Oh, likely. It's just likely.
Likely we have to do those shows.
Oh, yeah, that's fine.
Is he going to like Christian McCaffrey us, where he says that maybe he's going to play in week 2 and then all of a sudden he's out for the rest of the season?
That could happen. That could happen.
I vote for a producer party.
Okay. Anyway, we thank you for tuning in, texting in, and being a part of the show. For all of us until tomorrow morning at 7. Have a terrific Taco Tuesday, St. Louis.